What's that? I don't see it.
I think you were walking with it when you left.
Yeah, you were talking on the phone when you walked away. There you go. Okay. So we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
Now tell me when and I'll start it.
Okay, start now. Good evening. My name's Chuck Iova, and I'll be presiding over this evening's Planning Board meeting, November 14th, 2018. We have 2 hearings tonight. The first one will be 54 Eastern Avenue. The second one will be 52 Fairview Avenue. On the first vote, Jim Chiavelli will be voting on the Eastern Ave hearing, and then we'll see where we're at and who's available, because 52 Fairview Avenue was tabled, so there's only certain members who can vote and those who can't. For those in attendance, under the provision of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting is being recorded by MATV. I have not been notified that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. So for everyone's notice, MATV will be recording this meeting tonight. The first order of business we're going to do is we're going to identify ourselves for the transcription device. So I'd like, starting with Jim Chiavelli, I'd like everyone to introduce themselves for the transcription device, and then we will proceed with the Eastern Avenue hearing.
Jim Chiavelli, Planning Board.
Thawaddash Gabrasilase, Planning Board.
Patrick Fitzgerald, Planning Board.
Diane Shuha, Planning Board.
Ken Antonucci, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Michelle Romero, City Planner.
Eric McCush, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Charlie Ferguson, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. Ken, if you could read the announcement for the 54 Eastern Avenue case. There you go.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, on the petition of 54 Eastern Ave, Malden, LLC, by its manager, Bread of Life, Inc., to amend a special permit granted in case number 17-02 under sections and 300.3.2.5 and 700.1.3.2 of Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, that allows the extension and reconstruction of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Highway Business Zoning District for multifamily residential use as 14 studio dwelling units and general offices with accessory food pantry and meals program, kitchen and dining room, namely to extend the expiration date of the special permit at the property known as and numbered 54 Eastern Avenue, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID number 076270007.
Thank you, Ken. Is the petitioner present? Yes. If you can come up to the podium, introduce yourself, name and address for the record, and then describe the petition. And before you start, I would like to remind everyone to speak directly into the microphone, and those at the podium, after you give your name and address for the record, if you stop talking and come back, if you could reintroduce yourself, just name, so the transcription device can pick it up. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Gabriella Snyder Stelmack. I'm the Executive Director of Bread of Life. We do have a development team for this project, and so we have with us tonight Alice Kraft, our development consultant, and I'd like her to introduce herself.
Good evening. My name is Alice Kraft. I'm the development consultant for both Bread of Life and Metro North Housing Corporation, the two sponsors of the 54 Eastern Avenue project. And I live at 42 Sullivan Street in Charlestown, I should say.
Thank you very much.
And if I may just describe why we're here tonight. The planning board has been very generous in its extensions for this project. With two nonprofits, it hasn't always been easy to raise all the money that's needed for this project. However, with your last extension, which you granted in March of 2017, that extension allowed us to raise an additional $1.4 million in a competitive award from the Federal Home Loan Bank with our sponsor and member bank, Century Bank, so that now we are only one funding source away from fully funding the housing portion of the project. The very first funder was the North Suburban Home Consortium, run out of the Malden Redevelopment Authority for $1.2 million, which was not only generous, but frankly helped the other potential funders to provide additional funding for this project. This last bit of funding, the application is due on December 7th. We are hoping to receive an award, which wouldn't happen, unfortunately, until April, and then closing of all the funding sources for the housing usually takes 3 to 6 months. 3 is usually fairly quickly. 6 months is more likely. So we're assuming that closing would happen between July and October of 2019. In addition to doing all the things we need to get the funding for the housing portion of the project fully funded and closed, the Bread of Life portion of the building has to be completely funded before the housing folks will, the housing lenders will close their financing. So this gives Bread of Life a deadline to raise the last amounts of funding for their headquarters building, including the pantry and the kitchen. So we would ask for, I know the recommendation is for a extension to June 30th. I would respectfully request an extension that went to October 31st of 2019.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to present, or?
Would the board like to hear any more about the Bread of Life portion of the project? That's
I guess, are there any questions from anyone? Does anyone have any questions for the petitioners? They're not changing anything that we've already voted on. It's really just extending, not changing any of the design aspects. It's really just the timing of the execution of what we've already approved.
That's right.
Michelle, did you have a question? I see you.
No, I was just going to also comment that you do have a copy of the most recent decision in your package, and you have a copy of the approved plans in the package as well. It's a small set. It's folded in half. I have larger versions if anybody wanted to see it, but as the chairman said, there have been no changes proposed. The only change proposed is to that particular condition regarding the expiration.
All right. Ken Antonucci.
Oh, actually, I just had a question for Michelle about the extension time. I mean, is it any issue going beyond 1 year?
By our zoning ordinance, the special permit expires within 1 year from the date of granting, unless you specify a different expiration date, which is why you had started putting in the expiration dates for certain projects, such as this one that needed additional time. I was going to suggest, after hearing the presentation, that you actually extend it to December 31st, 2019, which is a full 24 months, to at least so they can get through this next funding award cycle in not, the way the process has worked, I'll just briefly say, they've had to contact us and try to get everything filed at least a month or two before the permit expires. So, you know, it actually pushes the window back a little further than the actual date we put into for them to be, you know, moving forward with the process. So I think December.
I think that's a good-
31st of 2019 is probably more appropriate. But no, you can put
No,
whatever
thank you.
reasonable extension date, whatever date you find reasonable, you can put in the special permit.
Thank you. That
Thank
would
you.
be very helpful
you.
if it was that
Yeah.
date.
No, that's good, because I agree with you, Michelle. I think give them a couple extra weeks to pull it all together. Any other questions for the petitioners? No other questions? Michelle, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Okay, at this point, we will take it. Thank you very much, ladies. At this point, we'll take anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone speak in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
Yes, I have a couple letters. The first is dated November 14th, 2018. It's addressed to Chairman Iovan of the Malden Planning Board. It reads, "Dear Chairman Iovan and Planning Board members, I write in support of the petition for 54 Eastern Avenue seeking to extend the expiration date of the previously granted special permit. This property is occupied by the Bread of Life, which operates its offices and food pantry at the location. This proposal includes no changes to the plans already approved by special permit, which allows for several structural changes and alterations to the site. In addition to upgrading office space, kitchen, and dining facilities, the project accommodates the addition of 14 affordable dwelling units. The extension is necessary due to delays in the project's financing and the lengthy federal and state funding process. As you know, Bread of Life plays a significant role in our community and has earned a reputation as one of the leading food pantry and hot meal providers in the area. This project will create a modernized facility so that they can continue to provide such critical resources and better fulfill their core mission of feeding the body and nurturing the soul. Again, I respectfully request that the board look favorably on this petition. I thank you for your consideration. Please feel free to contact me if you need further information. Sincerely, Gary Christensen, Mayor, City of Malden. I have another correspondence dated, well, it's not dated, but it was received today, so that's November 14, 2018. It reads, "Dear Ms. Romero, Chairman Iovan, and members of the Planning Board, first, thank you for this opportunity, and I apologize for not being there in person as I had another engagement I could not reschedule. I write to you and respectfully ask you vote in favor of the extension of the special permit of 54 Eastern Avenue, Malden LLC, and its managing organization, the Bread of Life. As you know, there have been many moving parts to this project, and unfortunately, 54 Eastern Avenue and the Bread of Life have had hurdles they have continually overcome. However, what has not changed is the scope of the project and commitment of the Bread of Life and their partners to reconstruct the property into 14 studio units of living, their offices, as well as a food pantry and dining hall for the community. I do feel this project meets the required findings necessary to grant the special permit extension, and again respectfully request the Planning Board to vote in favor of the 54 Eastern Avenue LLC, to give them the time necessary to ensure this project is completed to the highest quality standards. If you require any additional information, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time. Signed, Peg Crow, Ward 1 City Councilor, 9 Hancock Street, Malden, Mass." Also have an email dated November 14, 2018. It reads, "Dear members of the Planning Board, I am writing to express my full support for the special permit extension for 54 Eastern Avenue, the location of the Bread of Life. Bread of Life helps work to prevent food insecurity in our community. This permit extension will allow additional time for Bread of Life and its community partners to fundraise and complete the design for its Under One Roof project, which will be a major step to improving the capacity of Bread of Life to fulfill its mission to, quote, to strive to feed the hungry, the homeless, the needy, and the isolated," end quote. That signs Stephen Winslow, Counselor at Large.
Okay,
That is
it?
all, yes.
Very good. And seeing no one else wishing to speak in favor, declare that part of the hearing closed. If there's anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition, anyone in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition?
No.
Seeing no one else in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, can you take us through your staff report, please, and recommendation?
Yes. As you heard, petitioner is the property owner. Its managing member is Bread of Life, Inc. That is the current office occupant and operator of the food pantry and meals program at the premises. That is occupied in accordance with the certificate of occupancy that has been issued since 2013. Metro North Housing Corp. is the proposed operator of the proposed housing units. As you heard, the proposals to amend the special permit granted in case number 1702, as I mentioned, that's attached to your packages, and that the proposal is to extend the expiration date. The permit right now would expire December 31st, 2018. No changes are proposed to the approved plans. As I mentioned, those are also attached. I've given you the recent special permit history for this project. We can just incorporate that into the record by reference. These are the different special permits that have been issued as the project has changed and over the years since it was first approved by this board in 2013. If anybody wants to look at that, you can. Again, I've given you the information. I have copies of the permits and plans that were approved if anybody wants to see them. The proposal does not change zoning, compliance with dimensional controls, parking requirements, or other nonconformities. In terms of traffic, the proposal does not affect the traffic impact previously peer-reviewed by the city. You can refer to the special permit findings granted in case 1702 for information about that. Findings required to grant the special permit: you must find that any creation or increase in violations to dimensional controls or parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. You must also find that the residential use is in the interest of the common good, and that the reconstruction and change of use of the pre-existing non-conforming property are not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So provided that you make those findings, the recommendation, you want the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Is to amend the special permit granted in case number 1702 and to grant a new special permit subject to the following conditions. All the conditions that I'm going to read, except for the last one, are the same as the previous special permit. So first, that the first condition recommended is that the residential dwelling units shall be used exclusively as studio apartments, each occupied by only one adult tenant, managed by and with on-site supported living program services to be provided by Metro North Housing Corp. Or a similar service provider. 2, the food pantry and meals programs must be accessory to the general office's use of the property. The general offices shall be used exclusively by Bread of Life or a single similar entity. 3, the entire development shall be as per plans, including the previous plan dated January 30th, 2017, sheet number C0B, except for the building footprint and except as modified by these conditions. 4, antennas on the rooftop or any part of the building's exterior prohibited except for emergency city antennas. 5, all utilities, HVAC, and associated equipment on the rooftop shall be screened visually. 6, any and all balconies are prohibited. 7, no permanent dumpster will be permitted on site after completion of construction. The permanent building must have a trash compactor. Storage totes for use with trash compactor are permitted. 8, compliance with all requirements described in the Board of Health, Department of Public Health letter dated March 6, 2017. 9, maximize site distance by using low landscaping abutting sidewalks, install safety signage and pavement markings for vehicles and pedestrian crossings at Site Drive, including stop sign, pedestrian crossing sign, and caution vehicles exiting sign. 10, repair or replace sidewalks, driveways, and perform necessary incidental work adjacent to the property to the satisfaction of the DPW director. 11, obtain DPW approval for proposed new and/or modified curb cut. 12, designate loading space with pavement markings. 13, install and maintain fencing, gate, landscaping, bicycle rack, and bench adjacent to Northern Strand Community Trail, bike to the sea path, subject to review and approval by Ward City Councilor. Install cameras and lighting in locations abutting property to be determined by Ward City Council, Malden Police, and maintain cleanliness of the portion of the Northern Strand Community Trail bike to the sea path abutting the property, including but not limited to litter control and removal of overgrown vegetation. 14, maintain property clean and clear of all debris, no outside storage allowed. 15, install on-site underground stormwater management system, final design subject to review and approval of city engineer. And 16, this special permit shall expire on December 31st, 2019, unless construction has commenced pursuant to a building permit.
Thank you very much. And just to clarify, with the exception of a different date in condition number 16, those are all the same conditions that we had from the previous approval.
Yes, from the most recent previous approval.
Very good. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle? Any questions? If not, is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the special permit and to grant a new special permit expiring on December 31st, 2019.
Very good. Ken's made a motion to extend the permit for a year. Eric McCush.
I'll second that motion.
Eric McCush seconds it. And just for Michelle's benefit, I didn't see when Pat came in, but Jim Chiavelli will be voting on this one, and not Pat Hayes nor Charlie Ferguson.
Okay. And I'm sorry, because I just, this is, my recommendation wasn't written correctly, so I think I got off track. I intended to recommend you extend it for 18 months, and then I said it should be 24. So it should be June, it should have said June 30th, 2020. 2019 is only 6 months, and a year is what the ordinance allowed.
June 2019 is 6 months.
Right.
And I
And
thought
then-
we were saying take it out to the end of the year. They were going to be okay until
Okay.
October.
In my mind, I thought I was recommending an extension of 18 months, and then said, I think you should extend it the full 24 months. By ordinance, it's a year anyway, so you don't need an expiration date if it's going to.
Okay, I thought you were including the extension we've already granted when you referred to 24 months.
No, actually, I wasn't. So let me just tell you that. That wasn't my intention, but it's up to the board. If you want to extend it to December, you're actually, by ordinance, it would extend a year from November. If you didn't have any expiration, it would expire a year from the date you granted. So you're giving them an additional month, so it's a 13 months. So I'm suggesting that, I'm letting you know that that was my mistake. I had intended to extend it longer. I didn't, as I'm just reading this, I didn't realize I was only recommending a 6-month extension.
Excuse me, Ms. Kraft, do you mind coming up to the podium again, please? Thank
Sorry
you.
for the confusion.
You had suggested that you would have your financing closed by October of 19. Does December give you enough time, or is there any possibility of a delay in your timeline?
There's always the critical path of both the Bread of Life financing and the completion of their fundraising. If the October 31st deadline, frankly, is if everything goes perfectly well between now and then. So certainly a little extra time would be very much appreciated.
Do you think it will be done by December of 2019, or do you need June of 2020?
Having been doing this for 35 years, I would very much appreciate the June 30th, 2020, to give us a little extra time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've already taken
Yeah,
a
and that-
motion
yeah.
and a second for it. Michelle, how do we need to?
Oh, did you take a second? I didn't
Yeah,
hear a
Eric
second. Okay.
did the second.
So you should, amend that.
So-
I would have, this should have, and this is my mistake, I should have recommended June 30th of 2020. I was
Okay,
missing. so-
Ken, are you willing to amend your motion to include a date of June 30th, 2020?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion to extend to June 30th, 2020.
Okay, is there a second? Eric McCush?
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion on the board is to extend to June 30th, 2020. And it's been properly seconded, and as I said, Jim Chiavelli will be voting on it, not Patrick Hayes,
And not Charles Ferguson.
not Charles
Okay.
Ferguson.
Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Jim Chiavelli?
Yes.
Diane Chuha?
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Tawada Geber Selassie.
Yes.
Patrick Hayes.
Patrick isn't voting.
I'm sorry, Eric Henry.
Yes.
Henry Susi.
Yes.
Chuck Iovan.
Did you hit Eric McCush?
I'm sorry,
I
I
didn't
had
click on
checked,
him yet.
I checked off the wrong person not voting. That's, okay, so Eric McCush,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Chuck Iovan.
Yes, petition has been granted. The extension is to June 2020. Thank you. Okay. Next petition we're going to hear is 52 Fairview Avenue.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, tabled on August 8th, 2018, and June 13th, 2018, on the petition of Gustavo Lopez for a special permit under Section 700.13 of Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, to remove ledge and alter the grade to prepare the property to construct a driveway at the existing two-family residential dwelling at the property known as and numbered 52 Fairview Ave, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID Number 115-722-222.
Thank you, Ken, and the petitioner is present.
Yes, I am.
Very good. Michelle, before we get started, can you give us a brief summary of what's transpired since August when we last heard this petition?
Yes, on August 8th, 2018, the Planning Board reopened the public hearing. You had previously tabled the public hearing on June 13th, 2018, prior to taking any testimony. However, on August 8th, 2018, when you reopened the public hearing, you received public testimony from the petitioner, an owner, his engineers, and members of the public. You tabled the hearing and your decision. As part of your decision, you requested, 1, that the petitioner update and revise the plans regarding grades, heights of retaining walls, and ledge cuts to comply with the city zoning ordinance or to seek a variance, and 2, to provide more specific information about the amount of ledge removed to date and still to be removed from the site. You also requested that the following information be requested from the building commissioner. 1, whether the living room, bathroom, and residential living areas in the basement were constructed pursuant to a building permit, and 2, the number of bedrooms at the property. And you also requested, as part of your tabling motion, that the means, method, and equipment to be used to remove the ledge be submitted to the city engineer and fire department for review and approval. So since that time, petitioner submitted the following information and revised plans. There's a correspondence dated October 23rd, 2018 from Anthony A. Esposito, P.E., Carver, Mass., that describes the revised proposal, erosion control plan, drainage calculation, stormwater management plan, and method, means, and equipment to be used to remove the ledge. Petitioner also submitted correspondence dated October 23rd, 2018 from Paul B. Aldinger, Ph.D., P.E., East Providence, Rhode Island, regarding geotechnical engineering services, rock excavation for the project. Petitioner also submitted a plan called Topographic Plan of Land, 52-54 Fairview Avenue, Malden, Mass., Middlesex County, dated July 20th, 2018, revised October 23rd, 2018, prepared by Anthony A. Esposito, P.E., Medford Engineering and Survey, Medford, Mass. And finally, a plan called Construction Details, 52-54 Fairview Avenue, Malden, Mass., Middlesex County, dated October 23rd, 2018, prepared by Anthony A. Esposito, P.E., Medford Engineering and Survey, Medford, Mass. You have copies of that correspondence, both correspondence. You also have copies of the topographic plan and the construction details plan. You also do have in your packages, at the end of the packages, previous plans that were submitted in materials. But the stuff on the front and on the top that we just referred to, that is what you should be looking at, unless you're looking at the other stuff for reference. So please make sure you're looking at the correct plans. Again, they're dated October 23rd, 2018. City officials provided the following information. There is an email correspondence dated November 13th, 2018 from Kevin Halpin, Fire Lieutenant, the Malden Fire Department. There's also an email correspondence dated November 14, 2018 from Nelson Miller, the Building Commissioner. He is also here this evening if you have any additional questions or would like further explanation about any of that information when we get to it. And we also did receive comments from the city engineer, Yam Lip, that was in a memo dated November 14, 2018. You should have a copy of that in the package as well. So that is everything that has been submitted to date. Since, actually, there's one other piece of information that's in your package. You have a copy, and these plans are referred to in the building commissioner's memo. You have a set of plans, a set of floor plans that are stamped by the building commissioner with today's date, November 14, 2018, that are floor plans that were filed when the building permit was filed for the renovation of the two-family. So that's the small set of plans that you have in your package. You also have pictures from the site visit that I did last week. I have pictures taken as well of the interior of the building, the basement and first floor, and portions of the second floor. If anybody wants those, I didn't make copies of those, but I do have a few additional copies if anybody's interested in seeing those. And we can, read this information into the record when we get to it, or if you want it part of this, since it was information you asked for. If you
Yeah,
want it
could you read it right now? Thank you.
part, the city official letters?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So, the first is the email from Kevin Halpin. It's dated November 13, 2018. It reads, after reviewing the plans for the above address, this office has a few conditions we would like you to follow. It reads, 1, any method other than the one stated in the letter dated 10/23/18 by Chief Engineer Paul B. Aldinger will need approval by this office and the Office of the Building Inspectors. 2, a minimum of 2 seismograph machines will be used as per stated in Mr. Aldinger's report. 3, the hours of operation of the chisel hammering shall be no earlier than 9 a.m. and no later than 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And 4, a fire watch may be assigned at any time during the work process as deemed necessary by the Chief of the Malden Fire Department. Respectfully, Lieutenant Kevin T. Halpin, Malden Fire Department. The next is the email dated November 14, 2018 from Nelson Miller. It reads, Michelle, please accept this email in response to questions you forwarded to me regarding 52 Fairview Avenue. The answers to these questions have been determined through conversations with local building inspector Joe O'Callahan and also by way of a joint inspection which I performed with you on November 13, 2018. I intend to be at the planning board meeting on November 14 to expand on any of these answers as requested by the board. 1, the plans dated October 3, 2017, containing the attic and basement plan with proposed room layouts, sheet A4, is the plan set of record for this permit. The plans which were attached to our permitting software were revised before issuing the permit. This set of plans is stamped by this department and has been made a permanent record for this property. 2, changes that were made during construction that are not consistent with the plans are A, first floor sheet A1, the rear bedroom wall was not removed, and that room is still a bedroom. B, first floor sheet A1, the front hallway was reconfigured for proper access to the 2 units. C, second floor sheet A3, the front bedroom was converted into an office. And D, attic and basement sheet A4, the staircase from the basement to the first floor was reconfigured. None of these changes are in conflict with the building code or city ordinances. 3, all of the work that was performed at the property was authorized through the permitting and inspectional process. 4, the owner stated that he applied plywood to the garage doors of the garage located at 13 Division Street because the doors were in disrepair. This is not in conflict with any building code or city ordinance. 5, the categorization of a room as a sleeping area is determined at the discretion of the building official. The incorrect criteria which people, more especially realtors, utilize to determine a bedroom include things like the room having a closet, which is inaccurate. Existing houses contain rooms which are exempt from some current building code regulations as sleeping areas, but must be separated from the dwelling by a door. Sleeping areas in new and remodeled homes must comply with square footage, ceiling height, natural light, ventilation, and emergency escape and egress openings. All bedrooms are required to comply with smoke detector coverage. 6, the total number of bedrooms on this property before the work was performed was 5, and the current number after the work was completed is 5. 7, an itemized list of work to be performed is not a filing requirement for a building permit as mandated by the Massachusetts State Building Code. 8, the evaluation of terrain as a safety hazard is not within my purview or expertise. 9, there is no evidence of a construction company being operated from the garage located on 13 Division Street. 52 Fairview Avenue does not have any on-site parking, so 13 Division Street being used for parking by the tenants of 52 Fairview Avenue is a violation of Section 500.1. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions or concerns regarding this matter. Signed, Nelson L. Miller, Jr., CBO, City of Malden, Director, Permits, Inspection, Planning, Building Commissioner, Zoning Officer. These are phrased a certain way because of the way I asked the question. So if anybody wanted to see the original questions, I have that information. Regarding the terrain in 13 Division Street, I had specifically asked to look into the height of the ledge cuts as a potential safety issue, and also the use of the property at 13 Division Street, as you had requested I do, as they were raised as issued during the last public hearing. And then finally, I have the letter or the email from the city engineer, which is addressed to me. It's from Yem Lip, PE City Engineer. The building commissioner's copied, as is Robert Knox, DPW Director. It's dated November 14, 2018. It's regarding 52 Fairview Street ledge removal and driveway construction, 10/23/2018. Engineering Department has reviewed the above proposed ledge removal and stormwater management plan and has determined it to be acceptable. Below are additional comments. 1, proponent to provide copy of pre-construction and post-construction survey of nearby residences within 300 feet. Provide seismograph data throughout the ledge removal phase. 2, proposed curb cut will need approval from DPW Commission. 3, Fairview Avenue was reconstructed in 2017, including new sidewalk, new granite curb, and new pavement. Proposed restoration of concrete sidewalk apron, granite curb, and pavement shall match existing condition. 4, existing water service below proposed rain garden shall be at a minimum depth of 4 feet to prevent frozen water line during winter months. And 5, contractor shall provide construction schedule and set up a site meeting with the engineering department prior to issuance of a building permit. If you have any questions on the above comments or would like to discuss further, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. The information that the petitioner provided in terms of the geotech engineering and the revised plans, as well as the additional engineering information, you have written copies of, but I'm sure you would want to hear that from the petitioner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
So I won't read that into the record. Those were the comments we received from city officials in response to questions and information you had asked at the public hearing and as part of your tabling motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. I actually do have a couple questions on Building Commissioner Miller's responses. Mr. Miller, do you mind stepping up and be asking a couple questions? The two things that I'd like to have you address, if you could, is just making sure I understand what you've responded in. The two areas are, 1, the bedrooms, and 2 is building out of the basement.
Okay.
And understanding how that is not going to be, how the determination was made that won't become an illegal apartment. Mm-hmm. The other thing with regard to the number of bedrooms, I see 5 in your report. I know they were talking about 5 before, but in looking at the design of record, which one of the recommendations is to have it built based on the design, only 3 rooms are identified as a bedroom. So if you could just walk me through that, because if they're going to build it based on this, why wouldn't we need to consider what they're labeled and what the intention of the person building it is? Why we do need to ignore that with regard to the definition of a bedroom?
Okay, so the basement question first?
Yes, if you don't mind.
And I think,
Either way, whichever one
I
you
think the
want.
question was, does it qualify as a bedroom, or is it going to be?
Yeah, there were concerns that the basement was built out without permits and is being aligned for what could turn into an illegal apartment. And based on your observations, and you're the person who makes that determination.
Yep.
I'd like to understand better what it is about it that you see that would prevent it from becoming an illegal unit, and what it is you're using as a guideline
Sure.
to make that determination.
Sure. So the basement as it's built out today is built out according to that plan of record. The floor plan is laid out exactly as it was for that set of plans. Now, for it to be an apartment today, it would have to have complete provisions for habitation, eating, sleeping, food preparation, which it doesn't have all of those things. It does have I believe it has a bathroom, but it doesn't have hookups for a stove, refrigerator, kitchen sink, things like that. Stuff that you would typically see during the inspectional process. You would see that stuff already put in place, and someone would say, oh, no, I'm not gonna, it's not gonna be an apartment. You say, well, it could be, because you have the ability to hook these things up. This space doesn't have that. So although it's impossible for me to say that down the road, someone could attempt to turn it into an illegal apartment, someone totally could try to do that. At this point, it doesn't qualify as a dwelling unit, so.
Okay, thank you.
So
That's
that-
mainly
yeah.
because it doesn't have the fittings for
Right.
gas or electric.
It's not constituted at this moment as a dwelling unit, and it's impossible to enforce someone's intentions.
Okay,
So then when we move up through the house, there were some changes that were made to that floor plan that was submitted, which I put in the email. One of those changes was on the first floor unit, there was a bedroom that was gonna be taken away by way of removing a wall and making it part of the kitchen. They decided not to do that, to leave that wall, which maintains that room as a bedroom. The trade-off for that, so that they could maintain the same number of bedrooms in the house, was to turn one of the other bedrooms into an office. So once you have a room that is not separated or segregated from the rest of the dwelling unit, then it no longer qualifies as a bedroom. For instance, most people's houses have a living room that has doorways that enter it, but there's no door in it. That living room wouldn't constitute a bedroom just because it's a room. It's a living space, not a sleeping area.
so because it doesn't have a door, it's not considered a bedroom.
Right.
And which code is that? Is that the state code, the city code?
That's the state building code.
Okay. Okay, so basically, it doesn't matter what they put on the plan. If it doesn't have a door, it's not considered a bedroom by the state,
It wouldn't qualify as a bedroom, no.
even though they might use it as a bedroom.
Yeah, which people do all the time, obviously. We go into many apartments where people have taken every room inside the house that's not the kitchen and put a bed in it. And those would be determined to be illegal bedrooms.
And how do we police that?
Well, there's lots of ways. We get most commonly by neighborhood complaints.
So
That's a typical way we find out, is that a single-family home or a two-family home, suddenly there's, 12 people coming in and out of it and 14 cars on the street, so the neighbors complain. We request an inspection. we go in and you see a room that was constructed as a living room that has 3 beds in it. That's how we enforce it.
Okay, well, thank you. And I presume the same thing would be for the basement? That if someone notices people entering and exiting through the basement door, then we would need to have some sort of indication that it's being illegally used?
You would need some kind of indication, yeah. I mean, someone walking in and out of the door isn't usually good enough because it is a door to the house, so people are going to tend to use it. People come up with ways of complaining about these over occupancies in many different ways. Sometimes it's because they're advertised on websites. Sometimes it's because they see vehicles that have a New York plate in front of it suddenly, and next week it's a Pennsylvania plate, and the next week it's a New Hampshire plate. So, I mean, there's a variety of ways that these complaints come into us. But as a course of action, we don't just randomly pick houses on streets and inspect them to see if people are using their living room for a bedroom.
And they would be raised to your office?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Does anyone else? Oh, let me see, Ken Antonucci has some questions, and then Eric Henry.
Yeah, I just had one question. It appears that there's 3 electric meters?
Yep.
At the house? It's a 2-unit dwelling, right? So.
Yes.
What would the third, I don't know if you know, is there any
Yep,
comments on the third electric meter?
Yeah, so electrical code requires that when you have a multifamily house, you have 1 meter for each
Primary.
unit, and then you
okay.
have 1 for the common areas.
Okay,
So every multifamily house has an additional
okay,
meter.
all right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Eric Henry.
Yes, thank you. I just have one question. We've heard a lot of discussion about what would not constitute, well, what constitutes not a legal department, but what would plans look like? Is it possible for the petitioner to submit plans that would be approved by your office, or if they put the door in some kind of way like this?
I'm sorry, did you say plans that would be approved?
Right. Could they make it so a legal 1-bedroom?
In the basement?
Yes.
That property would be very difficult to create a bedroom in.
Okay.
Because to create a bedroom there, you need emergency escape and egress opening, which is a window of a certain size, certain dimensions, certain open area, certain height off the floor. And obviously, they're here to get a permit to remove ledge, so making that fit would be I'd say impossible.
Thank you.
I don't understand that last comment. Because they're in looking for ledge removal, we can't look at the construction that's driving the ledge removal?
No, I'm saying because of the topography of the property, because they have that much ledge where they're trying to remove to build a driveway, it'd be very difficult for them to fit a window in, which would qualify as an emergency escape and
I
egress.
missed the window
The
portion.
topography of the lot is not conducive to turning that into a bedroom.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Michelle?
I have one question, and I know we've gone over this a couple times, but I'm still not clear. The plans that we have are stamped, and you're saying this is the record plan. One of the rooms is labeled bedroom, and it has a door on it, on the plan. But when we went to the site, and I agree, that wasn't at the time being used as a bedroom, and there wasn't a door. But the plan on file shows that as a bedroom. So I have a question, also with the other room that's not labeled bedroom on the plan, but when we went, it was gonna be used as a bedroom. I still am not clear how we figure out what is, and you told me they don't have to submit an as-built plan of what's there, and that's not part of the permit process, but how do we figure out, years down the road, what was permitted, what was allowed? We may not be there to remember if we're gonna go back and look at this plan that seems to be approved and that this board would look to approve as well.
Yeah, well, they made changes along the way, and that's not necessarily uncommon in a construction process. What the inspector did that was working with them on this project was when they want to make a change, for instance, not take the kitchen wall down on the first floor, and maintain that as a bedroom, which on the plans shows it as going away and not being a bedroom. He made sure that they complied with the number of bedrooms by turning the other bedroom that you're talking about, removing the door frame, and not making that one a bedroom. So the number of bedroom count stayed the same. So you're right, there is no permanent record of those changes that were made
Okay,
during construction.
Okay, and the same thing with the attic, because the attic rooms aren't labeled anything, but when we went there, they were being used as 2 bedrooms.
Right,
So,
right. And again, in reviewing a set of plans like that, when you look at those 2 rooms in the attic, they are segregated rooms, they have doorways, they have a full set of stairs going up to them. So even if the applicant had written inside those spaces, game room and study, an inspector would look at that and say, well, you can call it a game room if you like, but in my opinion, that's a bedroom, so I'm gonna call that a bedroom. So it goes both ways. A person can write bedroom and it maybe isn't, or they could write playroom and maybe it isn't. It goes back to the determination of the building official that, well, I think this is a bedroom, so
okay.
we're gonna make sure the window complies to the correct size, you know, make sure that the smoke detector coverage is accurate.
And so,
all
and
those things.
thank you, one final question. Attic and basement, when this project started, were unfinished, is that correct?
The plan set that they revised didn't show any,
So there
Changes.
weren't any walls, there weren't rooms, there weren't fixtures, the attic according to that original set of
I
plans,
can't,
they
I can't say
were-
100% if there were any, but I don't think there were, no.
Well, that was the first set of plans dated October 3rd.
Right.
Doesn't show
When
anything.
When I
right.
spoke to Joe Callahan about which set of plans was the record set, and he said that was the record set, then that was the one I kind of
Okay,
concentrated on to see what was built compared to that set, not the one that was revised. So I don't think there was a lot of work in the original set of plans to be done in the attic and the basement, and I think the other 2 floors were pretty close.
okay, thanks.
Eric McCush.
Thank you. As far as the parking goes, you said that parking on the Division Street property technically is illegal for the tenancy of the apartment?
There could be a possibility of going back through the records and determining some form of grandfathering.
Or if they deeded them together, would that make it legal, or like make the property one property?
If it became one property, yeah. It's not, it's 2 separate properties right now.
Okay.
Today, it's, you know, it's 2 separate addresses, 2 separate parcels.
Okay.
So there is some possibility going back through historical records that it could be determined that they do have the right to park there. But it would be accurate to say that there is no parking on 52, on that parcel. There's no parking right now.
Okay. And then, this might be a better question for the petitioner, but like in the 3rd floor, it looks like they're putting in another bathroom in the attic, which just makes it, is that part of, they're gonna be the 2nd floor's 3rd floor, or is that, you know, almost seems like it could be a whole nother unit?
Each unit has 2 full bathrooms.
Yeah. Okay.
Under which has already been constructed. Originally, each unit had 1 full bath.
Okay.
Now each unit has 2 full baths. So a full bath was added to the attic and a full bath was added to the basement.
Okay.
But, I mean, maybe the petitioner can give you more info.
Each unit encompasses 2 floors. So one unit is the basement and the 1st floor, and then one unit is the 2nd floor in the attic.
Okay. Thank you.
One last question, if you would, sir. The parking, in one of the previous hearings, it was testified that for over 50 years, they had used that garage with the 52 Fairview site. Would that not have any weight or bearing on that Division Street property?
It could, and that's why I said if we went back through and did some historical research on it, we could determine that that parking can be used by 52 Fairview. We haven't gone through and done that historical research into it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Michelle's got one
Yes,
other
I just have
question.
one other question. Could you confirm, just on that note, that a portion of the garage building, a corner of it, including the door, the person door, not the two doors, is actually located on 52 Fairview? Portion of that building, according to the site plan prepared by their engineer, is located on 52?
Yeah, I mean, according to that plan, which you all have in front of you, there's a corner of the garage that's on that property. So, I mean, I think that's your confirmation from the surveyor.
So how
I
would,
don't really remember where the door was.
yeah, it's on,
I'll take
you
your
can
word
see in
for
the
it, though.
pictures, it's
Yeah.
right in that corner.
Yep.
So how would that work if he tried to, there are two separate parcels. They
Mm-hmm.
have always been sold and transferred together. I researched the deeds to the 1900s, just because I was interested when it got brought up by the board. So how would that work if somebody wanted to sell a property and the building was located on two separate parcels? How does that work? Do you know, or how would
think-
that trigger anything?
What I've seen in the past
Yeah.
is that the person who owns the property with the garage on it that has a corner of it stuck on their neighbor's property, which, believe it or not, happens a lot in Malden, would either tear the garage down, and then that problem's gone, or get creative and cut the corner off it, and then you have a garage that looks like a, kind of a rhombus. So you could do either one of those two
Okay.
things, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, or move the property line, which wouldn't be the easiest path to do, so usually take the garage down.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you
All
very
set.
much. Appreciate it. Okay, if the petitioner would like to come up, name and address for the record, please, and then if there's anything else you'd like to share with regard to new information from your engineers, now would be a good time to entertain that.
Sure. My name is Gustavo Lopez. Live in 531 Great Road, Acton, Massachusetts. And no, I don't have anything to add. I think everything has been well explained. And whatever the question the board have, I got my geotech engineer and my engineer here to answer any technical question regarding the driveway process. But if you guys have
Okay.
any other question regarding the construction process to the house, I'm here to answer.
I noticed you covered the garage doors, all the openings to the garage with plywood. Is there any plans to put those back to a more
That-
normal?
The information is not that, sir. The information is I cover up the doors, and the doors is still open and closed functionable. So the doors has a lot of holes on it, and I cover with the plywood instead of replacing the door. But the doors is still functionable.
Okay.
Right.
Very good. Which one of your team can speak to the ledge cuts section detail on page 2 of the plans?
For the record, Anthony Esposito, project engineer for the driveway side of it. Noticed this evening I've got a couple of Scrivener's errors on the detail. So if I can explain the site plan of what we're actually going to be doing with the ledge cuts, if I may have some moment of your time to do that. Glad
Yeah,
to do it.
if you could, I'd like to understand how high these are, and how deep they are, and how that fits into the two-car driveway being proposed.
Okay, basically, I attempted to comply with the City of Malden zoning regulations regarding the maximum depth of ledge cut and retaining wall. So we went to a two-tiered wall system. The first wall is approximately a little over 6 feet from the property line. The maximum depth of that ledge cut should only be 3 feet, okay? I believe the requirement in Malden is 6 feet. And then the second ledge cut basically surrounds the 4 parking spaces which we designed in accordance with the City of Malden requirements, which is 8.5 by 17, all 4 of them. Only one set is parked behind the other, which is also in the regulations. The detail was a recommendation from the city planner. I just noticed a couple of typos that I've got to fix on those, but the idea is the first tiered wall, which is about 6.1 feet away from the property line, the maximum height is at elevation 114, and the bottom of wall there is at 111, so it's only 3 feet. And then with a slight gradual grading towards the second wall, which basically surrounds the parking spaces, the maximum, I believe the maximum height of that wall is like 5.8. And the reason being is the site is so steep that we almost have to use almost the full required 8% to have the driveway / parking spaces comply with the local regulations. I mean, there's, the site is steep at that location. We're doing the best we can to complete construction of the driveway and the parking spaces, and at the same time, just not be able to meet our height requirements for the remaining ledge face that is there.
So that's why there's a range from 11 to 14 and
Yes.
106 to 108?
Yes.
It's supposed to be 111 and 114, I'm assuming.
Yeah. The idea is that at no point on any wall is it over 6 feet on either wall. And the two-tiered wall system helps alleviate that. As for the ledge calculations themselves, I'd like to explain, this board was interested in what was excavated before we filed and after we filed. The 68 cubic yards you see there was calculated using the City of Malden GIS contours, which are on your site plan. If you've got a colored copy, they should be orange, okay? Calculating those orange contours from the light gray contours on your site plan, I came up with an amount of ledge that was removed prior to Medfit Engineering doing a topographic survey of that site. The topographic survey are those gray contours you see on the site plan, okay? So the idea was the City of Malden had some old contours there, probably from aerials long ago, and based on what Medfit Engineering found, once they were asked to go out and survey what was cut, we were able to determine a rough idea of what ledge was taken out prior to permitting. The second ledge calculation goes from the gray contours, once again the Medfit Engineering survey contours, to my proposed contours, which you'll see the contour labels are encircled with a square, if that's the proper terminology. And we also added a note to stress to the contractor that in no way should the grade of the driveway be over 8%. Those parking spaces are kind of turned at an angle due to the shape of the lot and due to the shape of the street, so that we can, so the driveway and parking area is going to have a slight curve to it. It's not going to be straight out into the street. So that's why you've got that funny shape. You'll notice the parking boxes there are etched in.
So there are 4 spaces, 2 tandem spaces.
Absolutely.
Not the 2 proposed on the plan of record. This is the plan of record.
I don't recognize that plan.
This is the plan of record that the building inspector is using to judge the property by.
Yeah, I don't believe I've constructed that plan, so I have no idea what it is. I was brought
but
in
there
a
are
little
4
later into the
spaces.
process.
You're proposing 4 spaces.
Yes.
Okay,
If we could just make sure everybody's looking at, it's a two-page set of plans. It's revised October 23rd. And you should have coloring. Do you have that? No, I don't, that's the old stuff, Eric. This is, make sure everybody's looking at the right plan. It does have color orange on it on the front, and it should say revision, and it's stapled, because that wall detail he was talking about is the second page. Do you have some, does everybody have them? Okay, just to make sure everyone's looking at the right one. We're all set, thank you. I think we're all set. Thank you. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure.
yeah, no, it's a little
Is Eric
confusing
had a
because,
different-
well, one date says July 20th and one date says 10/23, but,
Right, July, I think, was the first plan, and as I said, and maybe this confused people, I gave you the old package as well. That's part of your package.
no.
Okay.
It's fine. Okay, and here you were actually very good on the notes with regard to the excavation notes and the various requirements, and then the calculation of the, what was taken out previously versus what you're expecting.
That's to the best of my ability with the information that I have in hand.
Do you heard in the reading in of the engineer's comments that the rain garden needs to be 4 feet, submerged 4 feet? Do you see that an issue with what you've proposed here? on the rain
Well,
garden?
that area of the site is elevated above the sidewalk about 2.5 to 3 feet. The rain garden is only going down about 6 inches because it's only taking the new proposed sidewalk. Since the gate valve for the water service is in the sidewalk, one can anticipate that the water service is about 4 to 5 feet below the sidewalk. Add the 3 feet elevated in that area where the rain garden is, I think we should be in good shape. But we can confirm that during construction or prior to construction. And I think the easiest way is, if it's possible, you take the gate valve off and you throw a tape down, and if you hit the valve, you see how deep you are. So,
Okay, now, what would the options be should you find you're something less than 4 feet?
well, if we found the water service to be less than 4 feet, we'd probably maybe, just dig down and put it a little deeper or insulate it. We would probably go by whatever recommendations the water department would have.
I guess what the reason why I'm asking the question is, would you go down, which I would presume would be into ledge, or is it possible technically to raise the garden to get you 4 feet?
Well, I don't think the water service would be below ledge, because it would be impractical to do that. They probably would excavate out the ledge to put the original water service in,
Okay.
and then backfill with good material. At least I would hope they would do that. I would recommend that you just drill water through ledge.
Yeah, I'm not-
especially for a house service.
I'm not sure where the 4 feet came from, so I'm assuming the engineer has some plans that
It's
say it should be 4 feet.
it's a standard frost depth for Massachusetts. I believe the government has maps that say 3 feet, but it's always been 4 feet in Massachusetts. It's given the extra foot. There's been some talk of extending that down to 5 feet based on climate change, so. Little history on the depth of water service.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions for the engineer or the geotech team or the petitioner? Okay, Michelle? Ken slipped in ahead of you. Go ahead, Ken.
Just access to the 4 spots are all from Fairview, or 2 from the back?
Yes.
2 from the back?
Yep.
All
No,
4 from
they're
Fairview.
all accessed through Fairview because the Division Street lot is a separate lot. It's got its own
Right.
access, and
It's just
It's
hard to, that's what it looks like from your drawing. Again, on the other drawing, the permit set, the record set, looks like there's a wall in front of the two spots.
And I think
two
there's
first
still going to
spots.
be a wall in front of the 4 spots. It's just the wall is further back.
The wall
See,
would be
see on the
further back.
plan where it says relocate air conditioner pad, and you can see
Yep.
in one of the photos. So that's going to be, that's where that wall is going to be.
The Division Street property is significantly higher.
No,
Than the backyard.
No, I know.
And the proposed driveway.
That's why I guess just trying to look at the two different plans that just, where they don't match up, it's just difficult to, I just want to clarify that, because even the other drawing, the A3 drawing on the record plan, has that wall very close to the, the front corner of the house, so.
Right, I think the original proposal was for 2 spaces.
Yeah.
By the time it came to this board,
Yep.
it was for 4.
Before, yep. No, I just wanted to make sure.
And it's now still for 4.
I just wanted to make sure, because if you're looking at the Mr. Esposito's stamp drawing, that makes sense, but from the other record set, it only shows the 2, so.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Very good. Michelle?
Yeah, will you be on the site while the work's being performed? Monitoring the site?
periodically. I don't know if I'm going to be set up in a trailer and, there every day.
But I mean, you'll be still under contract with the owner to monitor. You mentioned a statement, we want to make sure the contractor knows the grade has to be no more than 8%.
Well, that's why I put it on the site
Okay,
plan.
but will you be verifying that?
If an as-built is required, probably,
But that's at the end of the project.
yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, the board can condition something like that I periodically visit the site and provide them with a report. But right now, I'm on an as-needed basis from the client.
Okay. And so you're not the actual contractor, you're just the engineer?
No,
I don't mean
I
just
will
the
not be
engineer, but
performing
you're
the
not
work.
doing the work. So when the city engineer recommends that contractor provides a construction schedule and sets up a site meeting with engineering department, you would be able to attend that meeting?
That's
A
what the
pre-construction
condition-
meeting?
Yes, that's what the
Okay.
condition states, yes.
Well, it doesn't state it, but I'm thinking that might be important for you to be there since you're the one that designed the plan, and.
I have no objections to that.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I would have the same question about the geotech engineer, if he would be available to attend, or if you could give information about the monitoring schedule, et cetera.
Yeah, he'll be able to address that.
Oh, okay, that's part of the next thing, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Esposito? No? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
For the record, my name is Paul Aldinger, and I'm a geotechnical engineer, and my office is in East Providence, Rhode Island. And as you know, I did a little study and wrote a letter basically addressing the issue of vibrations, basically from the removal of the rock, estimating, giving a little background on what the magnitude of vibrations are likely to be. And if you want, I can go through a little bit of it without going through it all. The most common way of removing rock is by blasting it. And believe it or not, if it is adequately planned and set, you can remove rock without disturbance to adjacent properties. We actually have excavated rock blasting inside a building with no problems. You can do it, okay? We're not proposing that. However, Gustavo is trying to do something that is, less likely to cause a problem. And that is by using something on the back of an excavator that's going to essentially use like a jackhammer to try to get into the rock and loosen the rock at its fractures. And there are a number of fractures in this rock. So it isn't going to be necessary probably to go through a really significant thickness of rock that is competent. This rock is fairly competent rock. It is of volcanic origin. Yeah, the hydraulic breaker that he's proposing to use, that type of equipment is fairly commonly used for breaking pavement up and so forth or concrete in conditions where you're trying to remove highway bridges and so forth. We did do some of that in Providence recently, where we did do vibration monitoring for that. This hydraulic breaker will, in fact, cause a vibration to occur and generate or will flow through the soil, or sorry, in this case, it's rock. It's very common that you have soil, but in this case, we're going to be breaking up the rock with this hydraulic breaker. And when you do that, you're going to get three different kinds of vibration that's going to emanate from the source. And the two well, there are three of them. There's the compression, the shear wave, and the Raleigh wave. 2/3 of the energy from this is going to go into the Raleigh wave, and that's the wave that's going to go across the top of the surface. The other two are much less magnitude, and they also will dissipate more quickly. So really the most problems you have are with the Raleigh wave. And so that's something that we would be able to measure with a seismograph. I also indicate that there's 3 levels of concern with the vibrations in terms of magnitude. I didn't put it in this order, but really the most significant one would be something that would cause a vibration to some very sensitive equipment. In other words, at a much lower magnitude, you would feel that, or it would react to it. The next one is what you as a person and me as an individual, I can sense the vibration at a much lower magnitude than would be a problem for a structure. And so that's the third thing, is whether or not a structure is going to likely be damaged by a vibration magnitude or a wave going through the ground. Typically, the way you measure the magnitude of the vibration is by this wave going through the ground, and it's the peak particle velocity, and that's usually measured in inches per second. I reference a article that was presented to the Boston Society of Civil Engineers in 2001, and they reference a Bureau of Mines study that was done many years before that on structures. And they developed a order of magnitude of vibrations that you need to be concerned about damage to structures. And they came up with this, with a certain magnitude for a single magnitude or a single wave of vibration. You can either have a situation where you have a blast where the motion is generated by a single event, and that wave will generate and go across the surface of the medium. And then the other one is where you have something like a vibratory compactor or something, or in this case a hydraulic breaker, which you have a continuing shaking of the earth or rock in this case. And obviously, if it's a continuous vibration, that's more of a problem. And so they recommended that you take what the original Bureau of Mines did for a single event and divide that by 2. And they did that basically based on earlier work that has generated and indicates that it is generally about about a 50% reduction for the case where it's a continuous vibration as opposed to a single event vibration generation. And so I came up with, utilizing their work, I came up with an indication of what magnitude of vibration should be a limit for this type of work. And then I also, in that same reference, came up with at least a general idea as to what the magnitude of vibration is likely to be resulting from this jackhammer. And it's an indication that it should be even 10 feet away from the jackhammer, it still should be less than what the limit is that would cause damage to a piece of, to a construction, to a structure. And then lastly, as far as confirming that this vibration magnitude is not a problem for a structure, we're recommending putting it in some seismographs at a few locations. I'm thinking maybe in three directions, maybe. You know, typically it's done at the property line. You put the seismograph down in the area of the property line. That's because you don't control beyond that point. If you do control, if you are allowed to, you could put the seismograph actually right adjacent to the structure that you're worried about, or maybe the closest structure. So it's really a question of you know, whether or not you have control of the property. And obviously, as you move away from the source of the vibration, the magnitude of vibration is reduced. And it's really reduced significantly. So, I mean, if you are able to get to the right adjacent to the property, that's the best alternative. But even if you're on the property line, you still can get an estimate anyway of what the magnitude of vibration would be at some distance further away, because you have different distances to different property lines. And I said lastly, but really lastly was your regulations require that at least a survey of the properties within a radius of about 300 feet be at least offered to the owners to develop an idea of the condition of the property prior to the work being done. And then if there is an issue where someone doesn't think, in fact, that there was damage to their property, you can you know, go back in and compare the pictures or the references that you have from prior to construction to the conditions that you find yourself at later on. And you either have an issue or you don't have an issue based on that. So I think that's kind of what I said in the report, and if you have any questions, I certainly am able to respond.
Okay, any questions? Henry Susi.
Just ask, what's the anticipated duration of the ledge removal phase? I mean,
Okay.
days.
I think the petitioner could answer that question, but we did have a little discussion earlier, and he thought it might be a week to 2 weeks to complete the work. It will depend on you know, how successful he is in finding the fractures that are that he's going to try to get, because if he doesn't if he doesn't find a lot of fractures, it'll take longer in order to do it. I didn't say it earlier, but he does have some ability to vary the magnitude of vibrations that occur simply by how he regulates the piece of equipment. So if it were a problem with the seismographs would show this, he could slow the equipment down.
No, my thought is that the neighbors, you know, sort of have a kind of a right to a date certain that their any disturbance that they have to endure has an endpoint. I don't know if that's something to be considered as a condition, you know, just 2 weeks from the start, or?
Well, I mean, it is a good point, because we've had issues in the past with ledge removal that continues on, like, not a week longer, but months and months and months and months longer. It's longer than anticipated, and not necessarily for the reason he suggested, but because the equipment's not available or it's not working the way we thought it would work. And in some instances, we've seen the project completely stops for periods of time, so I don't think it's unreasonable to try to, I'm not sure what the date is or what the time is. I don't think it's unreasonable, which is why we asked, what's the expected duration? And I actually had the same question, because Mr. Esposito's letter said the same thing, about a week, but it may run longer depending on weather and the amount of effort needed, which kind of makes it sound open-ended, that who knows how long it might take. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Mr. Aldinger, do you plan on being on site during the excavation?
I don't have an agreement to do that yet, but I'm expecting that we would have either myself or someone that works with me to observe, to basically set up the seismographs at least every day and take them down, record the, take the data off the seismograph, and I guess you need it. He needs to submit it to the town.
You have the seismographs?
We rent them.
Okay, so, because that would need to be submitted on a daily basis to the fire department.
We can rent several of those, that's not a problem.
Okay.
We actually own one, but we usually rent for the others.
Okay, Henry, were you all set?
Yes.
Is there anyone else that has any questions? If not, Michelle, feel free.
Yes, so I had a question. I'm not sure if one of the questions from the board was exactly what equipment is going to be used to remove the ledge. And the petitioner at the first hearing described a type of equipment, but I think there was a question as to whether that was the same equipment that had been used originally when he removed the ledge. So we asked for very specific information. What is the model, the brand of the machine? So I see in this information that Mr. Esposito submitted, he is calling it a Bobcat 337 MIDI excavator.
That's the excavator, but it's the...
Right. So my question for you, sir, is in your report, you state an excavator with an attachment consisting of a hydraulic breaker model 1000B.
Yes.
Is that compatible with that excavator? You're suggesting the 1000B as the hammer. Will that work with that equipment? Because the board is probably going to be very specific as to what, the means to remove this ledge. And I don't, I would want them to know, in your opinion, is that a compatible equipment?
I can't answer that question. I don't know for certain.
You don't know? Okay.
I would guess that it would, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And my final question, just, you mentioned the 3 directions for the seismographs. So would that be the 3 properties to the,
Yeah, I'm thinking uphill, downhill, and then in the back.
okay, so north, west, and east. So in the back would be north, to the right, and to the left, or west and east.
That's correct.
So you're not suggesting across the street?
I didn't, but I mean, that's certainly a
Well,
possibility.
no, I'm asking your opinion. You said typically property lines.
Well, the rock is, we're going to be measuring it at 3 different lengths away from the source of the vibration. So, I mean, we can, if we know what the magnitude of vibration is at a certain distance away from the source, we could project what the magnitude would be in that opposite direction as well. We wouldn't have a measurement of it unless we moved it over there, and that is something that you can do. If you're there, you can take it at one location and move it to another location. And that is that is commonly done as the work moves around.
Okay, so right now, on-site and then in the 3 directions is, would you say, is like your minimum recommendation?
I would think that would
Okay.
probably be minimum in this case.
Okay, great, thank you. That was all I had.
Okay, any other questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Aldinger. Yes.
Michelle, may I ask you a question regarding the process about the machine and the deliverability? The what? The time to, the process to break the latch. All I can say and all I can state is based on the truth and about that experience we start the process. So we're gonna propose to use the same exactly machine, which as I forward to you all the specifications for the hammer and the machine, the exactly identical machine we did start the process. So basically, based on those informations, using that machine and the experience we had on site already to start that excavation, so can take us max 2 weeks. So we base it 1 to 2 weeks, based on a report I read today. They reduced me 2 hours in a day, starting 9 to 4 instead of 7 to 3. So they cut me 2 hours in the morning, so that's why I estimated this process can go to the next week. But that's a rental equipment, and respectfully, I'm gonna do it as quick as possible to stay on budget. So it's all rental equipment.
Do you plan on getting it in this construction season?
Excuse me?
Do you plan on completing this excavation during this construction season?
If it's considered, yes, as soon as possible, we'll start. We're done through the winter time, so it's a ledge. So we'll break it anyway, cold or hot, well, it's in the same thing.
Okay, so you're not bound by the construction season. You can work right through the winter.
Yes, that's correct.
How long did it take you to do what you did there?
Well, we did various things. We did the front wall, which is the old retaining wall on the front of the house. So that was part of the job. Putting it all together, we had the machine on site. We lost some days for snowing. We did it through the January, some very cold days. So the machine went on site and went out, and straight days, we probably worked for 15 to 16 days. This is what I have, the bill from my excavator. But
Okay.
that's a lot of work involved. So we exposed, when we removed the retaining wall on the front of the house and we dig the topsoil on top of it, we removed the ledge. So total days work that I got a bill from them for 16 days.
Okay, and according to the report, that was 68 cubic yards of ledge
Correct.
removed, and you have 53 to remove. But it's different ledge, it's it's not the top part, it's now
Yeah,
you're
now we-
getting into it.
Correct. Now we don't have any topsoil, we got to deal just ledge only. But we already have the pre-cuts, we already did it, so I can say it will go a little bit easier, because now the cut is already start. So we already have a starting point to break the ledge, so we don't have to start from fresh to create a cut on the ledge.
And which pre-cuts are those?
That's the pre-cuts I'm calling, and we did when we start the process.
So those don't include the cuts to create the stepped wall on
No,
the
that's gotta be,
westerly side.
that's gotta be created.
Okay.
Just one other quick question. Do you know, is the machine available for rental now?
Yes,
Is there more than one machine available?
it's more than one machine available.
Okay, because we had that issue with another site, that there was only one machine supposedly in the
Nope,
entire
my
state.
supplier can get a machine next day, and the hammer, they have dozens of a hammer available.
Okay,
There's not a high demand right now on the winter.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Michelle, how quickly would he be able to start if this goes through tonight?
We will have to prepare the decision and post it, then the 20-day appeal period starts.
Okay.
Presuming there's no appeal, I mean, the earliest I could get the decision done might be tomorrow, and that
No, no,
depends
and
on a
I'm
lot
not,
of
I'm
other
not,
things.
I'm just trying to
Right,
think
so
ahead.
let's say it's
He-
posted, even if it's posted tomorrow or Friday, then it's 20 days, so 20 calendar days, then the appeal is up. If there's no appeal, then,
So That's December 5th-ish.
right. I think what's interesting about this project, though, and the building commissioner brought this up to me when our discussions, there's not an actual building permit that he issues for this. So it's not like he then has to go through that process to apply for a permit and et cetera. So maybe some of that preparation of the paperwork and the insurance and et cetera, he can get started on during that process. By statute, we do have 14 days to post the decision. I'm not saying it's going to take 14 days, but it potentially could be 14 and 20 days. But I do want to throw out there that if the permit's granted tonight, there are certain conditions he has to comply with, including the pre-ledge removal surveys of all the properties within 300 feet. So that's a process, and I spoke to the engineer about that and the owner. He has to mail notices, and I would suggest he do that by certified mail so he can prove that he requested, offered the survey, and they sign off yes or no, and then he actually has to go out and do the survey of the property.
Okay,
So he would use the abutters list that we use, and he would notify all of those people, offer them the survey. If they say yes, he goes out and does the survey, hires a group to do the survey. So that's gonna take a little bit of time. So I guess my point is, even if he could start tomorrow, he can't start tomorrow.
No, and that.
You know what I mean?
And what I'm thinking, I'm just thinking ahead that he's saying he wants to jump on it right away. I wouldn't want to see this, these neighbors have endured enough already than to have this happen during the holidays where their homes are being invaded while they're trying to get ready for the holidays, to accommodate this schedule. So I'm just trying to get a sense of how much pre-work would need to be done. And it sounds like there's enough that would take the neighborhood at least through the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I think, even if it's during the appeal period, he's contacting the people and getting the surveys done. I think it still might take more than 20 days. So then that's going to push it into December, probably. So, I mean, I don't know if you're suggesting maybe you add a date when the work can start, We were
Yeah.
talking about when we want the work to end, but you may want to consider,
Well, I'm just
you know,
thinking
a
through
start
that
date,
for the
yeah.
neighborhood. They already had to go through the unpermitted ledge removal and deal with that. They've come out to several meetings. So
I mean-
just to inconvenience them between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. I'm not suggesting anything at the moment. It's just a thought I had, and I was just wanted to get clarification on the process.
And can I add one more thing?
Yes.
I definitely will respect the holidays, and I was just thinking right now on another situation. If it got granted to the driveway, and then if it starts snows a lot and we have an out-of-control winter, I'm not gonna create a hazard situation driving a truck on that tiny street, uphill, with a lot of snow on the street. I'm not gonna do that. So if we can date it, and I'm just propose this to this board respectfully, we can date the project to get started on March. So if is that the case, we're gonna minimize disturbing that neighborhood for snow removal, for the holidays, obviously, will get started on January. But now I'm also concerned about the snow removal on that street. I don't wanna make anybody's lives hotter than it needs to be. And unsafe.
Thank you very much. Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, it's a question, I mean, we're talking about the duration, but you're renting the equipment, you're gonna be operating it?
My contractor, he owns the trucks, the dumpsters, the machines, and the operator. So
Okay.
I got a contract with my contractor.
Okay. As we're talking about the length of time, but, where it's gonna be a rental machine, and you said you wanna get in and out as quick as possible.
Correct.
What about the work hours? I mean, you won't be able to start the ledge removal before 9, and then the end time?
It's
4?
9 to 4, sir.
Right, so,
Yeah.
just,
That's what's recommended by the fire department.
right, no, I'm just concern where you did mention, you want to obviously you want to maximize. I know when I've
Right,
rented
so
machines, I work,
If I got 9 to
work it a
5,
little
I got
late.
9 to 5. I gotta deal with it.
yeah, as long as you stick with that, so
Yeah.
again, you don't want to be
I'd
disturbing
rather
the
to have
neighbors.
at least 8,
Yep.
which is the most time common, and the kids is already out of the house going to the school, but
Yep.
at
And then what,
least,
and I don't recall.
at least 8 to
was
4, if
any
I'm on a right
weekend
to
hours
ask it.
mentioned too, or Saturdays, or?
It says the recommendation is Monday to Friday, 9 to 4.
Right.
And that's the recommendation I also included, because I
Then
defer to the
that's
fire
what's-
department.
Then that's what's in the
Fire
conditions.
department,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
That's the fire department's recommendation, and then that I put into my recommendation as well.
Okay, you all second? Thank you. Tawadage.
Do you have a plan to live on the property or you gonna rent the property?
No, it's a rental property. I was planning on the very beginning, but I've changed the plan, so now it's up for rent.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Michelle, anything?
Not right now, no, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, sir, would you like to add?
No.
Okay.
Yes, only if, because we brought out today, one more time, regarding the construction of the property. I would just want to make sure I'm leaving this place tonight with all the questions well answered. And we got the testimony for the building commissioner, Michelle, and also Michelle, when they went yesterday, they walked through the property and testifying according to the testimonials today, everything has been done correctly up to code. I mean, again, this conversation was brought out tonight, one more time, and I want to make sure I'm leaving this board tonight with all the questions, all the answers correctly, and nobody has any doubt regarding the project. And one more thing, the basement is a part of the first floor unit. It's not an individual unit. It's not a separate unit. It's part of the first floor. We don't have any family room on a second floor plot plan. It's only a kitchen, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. There's no living room up there, no laundry space. We have that all in the basement. So that's why I create this space in the basement, to accommodate a living room and a laundry room for the unit on the first floor. And the attic, it was mentioned, was not on the plan. It has always been on the plan. I'm not sure what kind of plans you have on hand, but that's what was submitted. It's always existed, 2 bedrooms on the end of this gable end, and we just add a bathroom on the middle of those 2 bedrooms. It's always been like that. Not a new stairs has been created. They always have a full access stairs to the attic to get an access to these 2 bedrooms. So they've always been existent. The only thing I added was a bathroom between those 2 bedrooms.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay.
On that note, since I did have the chance to see the property, and you just mentioned the laundry, in the second floor unit, you put the laundry in the back hall off the kitchen.
Correct.
Why didn't you have the same space in the first floor, why didn't you just put it there?
Because the space on the first floor, I consider was smaller, and I use that space for more storage, considering on the second floor, we have a lot more storage for a kitchen compared to the first floor. So that is considering that area I created for a small pantry.
Because it was still a stackable washer.
It could be, yeah.
Well, no, down the basement, I saw the stackable
Yes,
washer, and
correct. It
upstairs, I
runs
saw the
all the way-
stackable washer.
It runs all the way down the stack, that's correct.
Okay,
That is space, and you see, if you notice the counter space, the dip of the counter space, if I put a laundry there, I'm gonna have an issue to open the door from the kitchen. I don't know if you noticed that.
yeah, I didn't try to
Yeah.
open the door.
If you're sticking a laundry there, we're gonna have a hard time to open up the door,
Okay,
all right?
yeah, and just one other question. I understand that only part of the garage is on this property, but when you bought the property and you bought the garage, and the stairs connected the backyard, And, you know, the garage looked like it went with it, it was painted the same color. We heard testimony, it's always been used, it's always been held by the same owner. Why didn't you just want to allow your tenants to park in the garage?
Because I consider it as a landlord, as a hazard situation to have my tenants traveling from on the snow conditions, on the unsafe, different 6-foot level, high terrain steps to go back on the back.
To go down the little stairs in the back? Okay.
So the reason I appeal to put this driveway next to the property is to improve, which is I done a numerous improvement on my property, and this driveway is gonna bring more value to my property. That's the best way to evaluate my property, is it's built in this driveway right next to the house. So the value of the property will much different than have this, using this back lot as a driveway only.
Okay.
Which is gonna be a line-up conflict for the tenants as well, making a 2 different families line up 4 cars, 4 vehicles, or 5 if they have the rights for it's a 5-bedroom home, line up 5 vehicles to get out.
You mean to park if they parked on Division Street along the driveway, you're saying?
We only have a narrow,
Right.
long driveway.
Right, now I was there, right?
That place there is nothing else to do. It's a huge ledge on it. There's nothing else that can be done.
And so what are you doing now with the garage? I heard you boarded up the doors. 'Cause-
Nothing. It's
So
been
what's inside the garage?
my personal stuff.
Like work stuff or,
No, not work stuff, my personal stuff.
so it's not like your contractor's equipment?
No, ma'am, we don't have any traffic in and out daily, picking up materials or drop off anything.
Okay. And then I had asked you before, but just so the board hears, the stone and stuff that's out there now, the piles of, what is it called,
There's a-
gravel?
There's a
What is-
loom and gravel.
What's
and
that
Just
for?
noticed, it's a leftover, it has been used for my landscaping.
For the
All the-
52?
Yes.
Okay,
All the
okay.
materials you can find on the back of the house, you also can find in the multiple areas on the 52 Fairview Ave to create landscaping.
Okay, so that's there just temporarily.
That's correct.
Once this project's done, there won't be anything out there?
No, ma'am,
Okay, thanks.
sure.
Okay, anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
At this point in time, we'll take testimony of anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone who would like to speak in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
No.
Seeing no one in favor, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that'd like to speak in opposition? Opposition.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Rob DeMarco at 17 Division Street. First and foremost, the petitioner did approach the neighbors. I want to be very candid about that. Approached the neighbors in order to talk about this. We had a few informal discussions. There was nothing productive that came out of those, aside from the fact that I want to believe he wants to do the right thing. However, there are still several problems with this property and with this project. First and foremost, why are there 4 cars being put in there? It's a 2-car garage in the back. 2 cars at least. So what you're allowing when he widens the driveway to double width for cars is you're allowing the garage in the back and the driveway to go completely unused, which Ms. Romero had started to talk about. So I think that we need to bring this back to a single tandem driveway in the front. Obviously, it has to be finished, but I think that all he needs is 2 cars. Then he can put the others in the back. He can reconnect the garage in the back. He can fix it. I live at 17. I have no desire to look out and to see this derelict of a garage that's falling apart. He stuck plywood on the doors. He told us specifically he bought it with the understanding he could develop it. He then separated the properties. He's now set himself up so that it never gets used. At some point, he's going to use it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to have to start this fight then. So let's set it up so that doesn't become a possibility. The lots should be merged so there's no longer technical violation for parking there, as there is now because of having two different titles to the property, even though they have been sold together for better than 100 years. So I'd like to see those lots merged. I'd like to see the garage be brought up to code. He doesn't need to get as close to my neighbors on Fairview with this driveway if it's just a single width driveway. It can stay further away from the property lines. I think that we also need to have his engineering work peer reviewed. This stuff has gone back and forth. We've seen it change time and time again. Now, finally, I agree with the numbers in terms of how many days work was done. But we were all here when he was saying it was only a few days. Then it was only a few yards. Now suddenly we've got 53 yards and 68 yards. Enough is enough. Let's have the numbers peer reviewed so that we have an idea of an independent, not someone beholden to him for their paycheck. That's why peer review exists. I think we need a better definition of the work scope. They're talking about terracing. That's fine. I think that's a good idea to terrace. I think it's required. Obviously, it would be too high a cut. But I'm not sure that the distances work on that, and I'm not sure there's the need for the wraparound the way he's got it designed. Additionally, the problem with the pre-work review is that that's done for insurance purposes. The damage has been done already. We need him to confirm on his insurance company, that they will fund any corrections to damage already done. And he's going to have a hard time. My neighbor has a brand new house. It was rebuilt after the fire. It's got cracks in the ceiling. Insurance company isn't going to come in and pay for that just because he buys a policy now. So there needs to be a bond on the project such that it's going to be paid for if he won't pay for it. So I think we need to make sure that his insurance for this chipping takes note of the fact that the work was done illegally without the survey ahead of time. I don't think he's going to be able to get that. So that's an issue that needs to be addressed. Because without that, we're all going to be chasing after him for damage. My house is an old house. We're in the middle of remodeling, so I'm not sure if there was any damage. I couldn't tell you. I've got cracks in my ceiling that I'm in the midst of remodeling. I'm in the midst of applying for a building permit. So I'm not going to be the person on that list. But I know lots of properties in the area that have been renovated over the past 10 years, and I know for a fact my neighbor's house has been damaged. So the survey is, at this point, useless. The work needs to be, he needs to show us that he can fix all the damage he's done ahead of time. We don't need to have all of this material removed. It can be a single line. He's overdoing the parking. And I'm sorry, but while I believe that he's now telling more of the truth than he did before, I still do not believe why the separation occurred. You don't invest tens of thousands of dollars with all of this that we're going through right now because you don't want your tenants to walk across the backyard like they do in hundreds of houses through this city. So that particular explanation doesn't carry weight. He's going to leave the garage the way it is for how long? These are things that need to be addressed, and I would ask this board to take serious consideration. Obviously, he needs to finish the work, and I am fully in favor of that. I've said before, the last time I was before you, I think he did a really fine job in terms of the inside of the property. I think there is quality work there. I think he's done a fine job in the exterior of the building itself. But he needs to finish it the right way. And that's the part that the neighbors care about. I'm sure they're going to be nice tenants. I'm sure he's going to be able to take care of those tenants. But he started off by telling us that he was going to live there. That wasn't the truth. Then he told us that the numbers were different. That wasn't the truth. At this point, I'm sorry, he may be being more truthful, but we need to hold his feet to the fire and do it the right way. So once again, to reiterate, the properties need to be merged. We need to cut back on the parking. We need to make sure that the back property is going to be used only in conjunction with the front property. I do not need to see different people coming down and going in through my backyard in order to, I've seen him pull up trucks and things that had nothing to do with the project before. So that garage needs to be renovated and fixed up to code with the rest of the work. We need to make sure that the seismographs are placed accurately, and I will let him put them on my house, absolutely. And then finally, I think the insurance issue is a major one, and I think that that's going to be something that he cannot answer. None of us in this room are insurance experts unless there's people on the board who are. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Murphy. I am the Ward 5 City Councilor I represent the Fairview Ave area. I would like to reiterate everything that Mr. DeMarco said. This situation has been stressful for everyone involved. We do need to find a solution so that the builder can actually finish this project and move on with his life, but at the same time, we need to protect the neighborhood. I do believe there is some merit to combining these lots, as we have heard testimony throughout the night from Ms. Romero just stating the obvious of going back through the deeds to the early 1900s. These properties have been used in conjunction with each other. I did meet, I'm sorry, your last name? Gustavo. Early on in the, well, after the excavation had started, so not early on. But one of the comments that he did make to me at the time when I asked him about the back lot was that he had plans for it. I don't know what those plans are. He never articulated it further than that. I personally don't want to be back here in 6 months or a year, you know, fighting again to stop some type of development going on that 3,000 square foot piece of lot that is just total ledge. If you've been up there to look at it, you can just see the rock face looming out of there. So I personally would like to see if it's within your venue to have these lots combined. Although I'm not sure how many of you have been out there, there was steps coming down from that driveway. I have gone up there in flip-flops. It actually looked like an easier climb to come from the back than to go up from the front. If I was a tenant, I actually probably would prefer to pull into that back driveway and get off of Fairview Ave and just be able to walk into my back door to enter the first floor. The insurance issue for the neighbors who do have problems is a huge issue. My background is insurance. That's the sector I come out of. I do believe what Mr. DeMarco just said, that it's going to be very difficult for Mr. Gustavos to get any insurance with the work that has already been done. So there's a huge issue for anyone in the neighborhood who has any type of structural damage from the work that has already been done and the work that might continue to be done. So I'm not going to repeat everything Mr. DeMarco said, but I'm in full agreement with every item that he mentioned, and I know, as you always do, you will consider this all carefully and take the best interest of the neighborhood to heart. So Mr. Gustavus lives in Acton. He does not live here with us. I'm sure he's going to be a great landlord, and he'll have great tenants, but we're the ones who have to deal with the situation day in and day out that's created by some of these developments. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
My name is Miriam Cianciulli, and I live at 40 Fairview Avenue, right on the corner. And my house is built on that ledge. And believe me, every time that jackhammer went off, I had waves in my bathtub. So you can feel it in your house with that thing going off. Our houses are close together right there. I'm right on the corner of Fairview and Division. And it has caused problems in the walls out front. They're all cracked. So I don't know what can be done, but I don't want any more ledge removed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Fosdick. I live at 44 Fairview Avenue, right next to the property. Thank you for having us. I really won't go on too much. I've agreed with everything that Rob said. Yeah, we have a brand new house. We had a fire a couple of years ago. We moved in, had the house completely renovated. There are some, cracks in some of the ceiling lines that we have, since the work was done next door. I just want to make sure that my property is okay. Looking at the plans, the step terrace from the driveway concepts, I really don't have a problem with that. It was difficult that the work was done illegally, that angered myself for not stepping in earlier and questioning it, just in, maybe trusting and assuming that everything had been done the proper way, and it hadn't been done. And, he put, myself, my house, my family in jeopardy by the work that he did, without having anything improved. So, like Rob said, we want him to finish the project. We don't have problems with the way he's built the house. It looks nice. He's had some people living there now. We haven't had any problems with those people. We don't expect to. And, we just want to move on, but we want to make sure our house is going to be safe and everything around that. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone else in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition?
No.
No one seeing no one else and having nothing else to read, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, do you have anything to read in general?
No, I read the letters that I had from the city engineer, building commissioner, and fire department. I read already.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we've closed the in favor and in opposition. Michelle, can you take us through your staff report, please?
We have already, for the record, gone through the planning report and recommendation dated June 13th, 2018. You do have a copy of that in your package. Also, the supplement dated August 8th, 2018. So those are incorporated by reference. I'm not going to read through those. I'm going to start with the recommendation called Supplement 2. It's dated November 14th, 2018. And it states that it supplements those previous reports and recommendations. We've already gone through the procedural history of you tabling the hearings, the new additional information we've received. So we'll move to findings required to grant the special permit. In order to grant a special permit, you must find that the proposal is not detrimental to the neighborhood and that the proposal will not adversely affect the general welfare or public safety. Those are the two standards for granting a special permit to remove ledge. Those are stated in section 700.13 of the zoning ordinance. So, provided that you can make those findings, the recommendation was that a special permit be granted subject to the following conditions. And this recommendation was made prior to the public hearing. As we go through, I will add some additional modifications that I would recommend based on testimony and information we received during the course of the hearing. So 1, all development shall be as per plans unless and except as modified by these conditions. 2, all ledge rock removal may be done only by hydraulic chisel hammer breaker model 1000B mounted on a Bobcat 337 MIDI excavator or an equivalent vehicle equipment. And any ledge rock removal by blasting or any other mechanical or other means is prohibited. 3, during site development, implement erosion controls as per plan. 4, conduct pre-ledge removal video and photographic survey of all buildings within 300 feet of the property lines of the subject property and provide survey to property owner. Before ledge removal begins, provide city with list of all properties surveyed and contacted. 5, during any ledge removal activity, place seismograph on site and at the following properties or property lines with, since that was raised as an issue, we may not have permission to go on the properties. 44 Fairview Avenue, 56 Fairview Avenue, 13 Division Street. I've also suggested for your consideration, so those are the 3 abutting properties to the north, west, and east. 17 Division Street abuts 13 Division Street. It doesn't abut the subject property. 53 Fairview Avenue is across the street. And 11 Summit Terrace is also across the street. So those 3 properties, I'm not sure, whether you would want to include those for seismographs or any other addresses. But at a minimum, I would say, again, the properties are property line with 44 Fairview, 56 Fairview, and 13 Division. Submit seismograph tapes to fire chief for review daily. 6, maintain liability insurance of a minimum of $100,000/$300,000 with City of Malden named as lost payee. I would recommend that you add additional language, and I'm not an insurance expert either, but we heard an idea about having a bond posted to cover insurance, to cover any claims for damage that was done from prior work. Removing ledge. I'm not sure if that would work, if a bond could specify that. I don't believe you can retroactively, the insurance will cover. I'm not sure about that. Again, I'm not an expert or really have much knowledge about it at all. I'm not an expert, definitely. So maybe it's adding the bond to cover damage done by prior work. I'm not sure how that gets worded, so 7, but I think something should be added. 7, during site development, hire fire details and provide a fire watch at any time as the fire chief deems appropriate and necessary in his reasonable discretion. 8, during site development, hire local police details as the police chief deems appropriate in his reasonable discretion. 9, provide written notice to be delivered to all premises within, it actually should say, deliver written notice to all premises within 300 feet of the property lines of subject property, including the dates of ledge removal activity will be conducted and the hours of beginning and ending daily for the same. Submit copy of notice to the city. So that would specify, not 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It would state, between March 1st and March 18th, between these hours, we'll have specific dates. 10, all retaining walls must comply with sections 400.7.8 and 700.10 of this ordinance. Those have to do with the heights and proximity to the property lines. 11, the hours of operation for any ledge removal and/or any construction equipment operated for ledge removal or site grading and preparation are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. As I mentioned, that was recommended by the fire department, and that includes not just the ledge removal, that includes warming up the trucks, the equipment, any equipment at all should not be fired up or started before 9 a.m. and would end by 4 p.m. 12, install rain garden for stormwater management as per plan with existing water service below garden, I'm sorry, I should say semicolon, existing water service below garden shall be at minimum depth of 4 feet to prevent frozen water line during winter months. That's what was recommended by the city engineer. 13, the maximum number of bedrooms is 5. The maximum number of kitchens is 2. No bedrooms are allowed in the basement. I'm not sure what else you can add about that. The first condition does say all development as per plans. I do have a problem with the fact that the plan on record isn't the plan that was built. And I have a problem with it because I think it could cause a future problem or a future concern. So I'm wondering if here we would say, you know, submit as-built floor plan, you know, so that we'll know where the 5 bedrooms are, or, you know, the city will know, I should say, which rooms are being used for what. Submit, you know, current as-built floor plan. I'll put that there for now as a placeholder. The reason I'm saying maximum number of kitchens is 2, you may say, well, what's the problem with that? Because in our ordinance, it says 1 kitchen per unit, but you can't apply for a variance of that. So this would create an additional hurdle if they ever did try to add another kitchen. Not only would they need to go for the variance, they would need to come back to this board to amend the special permit condition or try to amend the special permit. 14, replace plywood coverings on all doors on garage at 13 Division Street, Assessors Parcel ID 115-722-202 with standard doors. I just call them standard doors. I don't know if there's a better term, if any of the board members have a different idea. A portion of that garage is on 52 Fairview, so I do believe and will give you the opinion that at least that portion is within your jurisdiction under this special permit. Arguably, only the portion of the garage is, so it's only that one door. I would, you know, hope that the petitioner will agree and go on record as agreeing to these conditions. So, you know, there won't be a problem with that getting done. If he doesn't agree, you know, he could potentially challenge the condition. We would need to do that through filing, you know, a lawsuit and appeal. Or if you don't put that condition on, if you don't think it's reasonable. 15, curb cut requires and is subject to DPW approval. 16, submit as-built site plan showing parking areas, stairs, walkways, retaining walls, and actually should say ledge cuts, and ledge cuts. So that will be at the end of the project, they'd need to submit that plan. 17, restore concrete sidewalk, apron, granite curb, and pavement to match existing condition. So that was also recommended by the city engineer. 18, I'm also, suggesting a condition, provide a construction schedule and attend, and owner, site engineer, and geotech engineer shall attend a site meeting with the engineering department prior to the start of work. I don't know if you think the building department should also be involved, if you think I should be involved, but the engineering department definitely wants to have that meeting. I'm not sure, I think it would probably be prudent for the building commissioner to be there, and probably, because he's gonna be the one enforcing these conditions as the project goes along. So that would be that additional condition, and then a condition I had recommended previously at the last hearing, and just give me a minute. I had proposed initially to recommend at this hearing, just give me 1 minute to find it. was that you specify a condition that restricts the permit to allow removal of ledge and grading to complete the installation of a driveway approximately 17 by 17 feet to accommodate 2 parking spaces. So that would be 8.5 by 17 feet each. So that would be a side-by-side, not a tandem, and it would essentially be the area that's already excavated. It would be grading, finishing the grading to bring it into compliance with the 8%, constructing whatever retaining walls, obviously still going through the curb cut process, et cetera. If no ledge were going to be removed, then he may not have to do the ledge removal survey part of it. We'd have to think about how we would word that. If there's no additional ledge to be removed, if it's just grading to complete the installation, this permit would essentially legalize the work that was already done and allow the completion. It wouldn't be authorizing any additional ledge except to complete that. Again, I proposed this last time based on what we'd heard. I didn't officially propose it at the beginning of this, although I had proposed it in a prior draft of this recommendation. I'm not sure. I'm throwing it out there for you to consider based on what you've heard as a possible option. The two-family is grandfathered in. It technically does have no on-site parking. I do agree with that. I do believe, as the building inspector referenced, there is potential for determination that there may be some sort of pre-existing grandfathered in status for that garage because it's always been used. But that would be something the owner would have to pursue. I would like to occupy this garage and property for use of 52 Fairview and pursue that to try to get the proper approval and permit to use it for that. He isn't doing that, so we can't make him do that, to my knowledge. So, but my point was, 52 is grandfathered in right now with no parking. So adding 2 parking spaces would be adding to the parking. He's not required to provide 5 spaces for 5 bedrooms because it's been established that there were 5 bedrooms at the start of the project. So I will mention that. I will also just briefly mention, in response to the comment, I don't believe this board has the authority to merge lots. I do believe the city assessor has the authority to merge lots if they're held in common ownership. I don't know why the assessor has not merged these 2 lots because they've been held in common ownership for years, and typically that is what happens. Reference was made to him subdividing them. There's no approval required subdivision plan or other subdivision plan on file with the city or with the registry. So I don't have any information I can give you that shows when they were separated. They've always been, from what I saw, separate parcels held in common ownership and used in conjunction. That's the most I can give you there. If you want more information about merger and things like that I can't provide, I would certainly defer to the city solicitor. And then the final comment I'll make has to do with the peer review that was brought up by one of the abutters. You can, in accordance with your rules and regulations, you can hire and employ outside consultants to assist you in conducting peer review and analysis of any traffic impact study, which is what you typically do, stormwater management, utility studies, in conjunction with petitions. That fee for the review would be paid for by the petitioner. And it's in accordance with state law, Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53G. So if you would want to do that, you do have the rights to ask for that. We don't, typically do it. We didn't initiate it at the start of this, but it is something if you wanted to consider. I just wanted to let you know. I think the engineer, this particular engineer, stamped and certified the plans. He acknowledged there were some Scrivener's errors. I think you can rely on that particular engineering plan. That's the point of having it professionally prepared. If you're questioning any of it and you want any of the information peer reviewed, then that's a different question. But your rules do require that the plans be prepared by a professional, and they were. So I would say we can rely on that plan. And that's it for now. I'll stop now.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Eric McCush.
Yes, thank you. Could a requirement be included to mitigate existing damage already done by the illegal work prior to applying for insurance for future work?
I mean, I think you could put that in. I'm not sure if he could ever meet that condition. Like, I'm not sure if that's done through insurance, or it would be best done through a bond, or
just paying out of pocket?
or if
Sounds
he
like
just
there's one house that was
agreed, you
damaged.
know, I will cover whatever damage, you know. Obviously, I would suggest you put a cap. You know, you come to an agreement. That's why I thought maybe the bond might be the way to go. And on that note, when you finish, don't let me forget, I forgot to mention, I also wanted to recommend you consider a duration and a start date as a condition. I forgot to mention those two.
Are you all set, Eric?
I am, thank you.
Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michelle, the addresses that you included in number 5, are those all the properties that are within 300 feet of the property line that we're aware of, or do we have a list of those?
No. All the properties within 300 feet are the same the same properties that received notice of the hearing. So those are approximately, there's 30 per page, so this is 60, 78, approximately 80 properties would be, are located within 300 feet.
Okay.
So those are the 300 properties he would offer the survey to. And then it would be a survey of any building or structure on the property.
I think these were, Patrick, were geared more towards the minimum number of placements for the seismograph.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Those are the seismograph locations.
Not intended to be every property within the 300-foot period.
Okay, thank you.
Those were direct abutters or across the street, or in the case of 17, abutting 13.
Anyone else have any questions? Charlie Ferguson.
That option that you mentioned, Michelle, of simply just grading the area that has already been cut in the ledge and calling it 2 spots and not granting a special permit and going for the 4 spots, would that require a special permit in and of itself, or would that just be an option alternative to the special permit not being granted if it were to go that way for the 4 spots? You mentioned just perhaps doing the 2 spots for the ledge that was already cut.
Right. What I was trying to get at, and I probably wasn't clear, is the grading alone, I don't think requires a special permit. But if there's any ledge removal involved in that grading that remains to be done, that would require the special permit. So I also think that this case is properly before you to legalize prior ledge removal, which we don't usually see cases like that, although occasionally we do. There's a property, you know, used for 5 illegally, and they come in to legalize it, so it's kind of after the fact. Board of Appeals sees more of those cases. The deck is built, then they come in and ask for the variances. So this is kind of that type of case. I would say you would keep it in your jurisdiction, and if it wasn't involving ledge removal, however, I would say you wouldn't need to apply the conditions that apply to ledge removal. So if the special permit legalizes prior ledge removal, and you'd need to state that, and only allows grading to complete this, right? You're not going to need to have some of the requisite conditions prior to ledge removal place a seismograph, because there won't be any ledge removal. So you would eliminate some of these conditions, one of which I thought would be the ledge removal survey, because you're not going to be removing ledge, so you don't need to go out and do a survey. You might still want to put a condition in, though, to cover the cost of damage that's already been done, and I don't know how you would do that. You'd have to phrase that. But if you were going to go that route and you know, again, I'm not even sure if what can be done for grading is just the grading and it doesn't involve ledge removal, or it really does still involve ledge removal. I don't know if it's hammering and stuff still needs to be done, even if it's just to create the 2 spots.
Right. I ask because obviously there's been a whole lot of ledge removed already, so I think we should understand how much work would need to go in additionally for at least those 2 spots, because I think there's enough room for those 2 spots, but just to understand what kind of work would just be for those 2 spots, if that was the alternative for the work, for the work that was already done.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what. I think you can look at the plan and see what the existing grades are, and perhaps if you wanted to hear from the engineer, you'd have to, you know, see what 8% is the driveway grade or the parking surface grade. Actually, 15% is the driveway, and then the parking surface is 8%. So you'd have to figure that out.
You all set, Charlie?
Yes, thank you.
Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, I guess in the same vein of what Charlie was bringing up and bringing it back to what Michelle was saying, I guess I don't like the idea of retroactively approving the illegal ledge removal by us changing this permit application around, even if it is just to say, okay, you can have 2 spots. Because, I mean, Michelle, correct me if I misunderstood you, but, so we deny, if we deny this, he can just put the 2 spots in, doesn't need a special permit, but he'd have to comply with all the, you know, appropriate grades for the driveway and things like that, that the building inspector would, you know, monitor.
That's correct.
All right, so,
Unless, if there's no ledge removal involved, right? I'm suggesting you try to retain jurisdiction of the case as opposed to just outright denying it. You attempt to modify it. You know, you don't often do that either. You usually act on what's before you. You don't have to, you know, it was an idea, like I said, we had discussed before based on some of the testimony we heard.
but again.
The other option, right, would be to outright deny it, and then he is left to either leave it unfinished or come in to do what he has to do under the ordinance. If he doesn't meet the grade of the driveway, he could go for a variance and say, look, my pavement isn't gonna be 8%, it's gonna be 9%, or my driveway, he still needs to get a curb cut. The retaining walls, whatever height he builds, still has to comply. I think he would still need to build the retaining walls because I think he's got ledge cuts on site right now that are higher than 6 feet. So that
Correct.
definitely has to be addressed because that's in violation of the ordinance. How he addresses that, whether he goes for a variance or he builds walls that comply and the city engineer has to review those plans, you know, that would be.
Yeah, and, you know, and I don't know if you can refresh my memory on this, or if the petitioner can answer it again. The reluctance to utilize the other property for the purpose of providing the parking that seems like it was historically done, or if there was any, I don't believe there's ever been any admission of a plan of what to do with that other property, correct?
He testified tonight that he believes it's a hazard to walk down the steps that he removed and walk in that way, and then he plans on using the other site for his own personal storage.
And that's
what he said tonight.
Yes, but
anyways.
that's a
I mean,
legal use
we can only
of
hold
that,
him to what
but that's a
he's-
legal use of that property, just to leave a garage there,
It's a residential garage.
not
It's-
attached to any residence,
That's
though.
not under the zoning. Technically, it's not under the zoning in its current state. As I said, I think if you wanted to pursue that, you could try to pursue a permit to use it for off-site parking. For example, for residents within 300 feet, that's allowed in that district. You know, there are things they could do under current zoning, but under current zoning, it's I mean, it's definitely a pre-existing non-conforming. It's a standalone garage that's partially on one lot that isn't, there's no permit on file that says it has to be used for anything. So it's, you know, but it's in Residence A, so I mean, it can't be a, you know, a contractor's garage, it can't be a industrial garage. It's definitely assessed, I believe the assessment calls it a residential outbuilding. So, I mean, I guess it's like the equivalent of a shed, you know. It's.
Okay, thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
Jim Chiavelli.
Michelle, if that lot, the Division Street lot were broken off, given its dimensions, what could be built there?
Well, the Division Street lot, just to be clear, and I'm sorry if it wasn't, is a separate parcel already. It has 5,213 square feet, so it is a separate parcel. Nothing. It is, I don't believe it meets any of the minimum, there are certain minimum requirements that exempt standalone lots for single-family dwellings. I don't believe it meets the minimum. So if they wanted to, the only use allowed by right residential in that district would be a single family, or I should say a group home is another residential use, but it's single family, and it doesn't comply with the lot size. And again, I don't think it meets the exemptions. I don't know if it complies with the front, or it does comply with the frontage, so they would need to seek a variance to build even a single family.
All set? Ken Antonucci.
So that would be the viable option, and perhaps a reason why to keep it separate and not tie it to this Fairview parcel, if the plan is down the road, and again, we're looking at a crystal ball, of trying to get a variance to build a single family on that house, on that lot.
I don't know if it's a viable option. I think it's an option.
It's an
I think
option.
they could file a petition.
Well, when I say
for
viable,
that,
I don't
right?
mean like looking for it, but that's definitely an option that he may try to pursue.
What would need to happen to have the assessor combine the lot?
I believe the assessor looks just basically at the tax records. If it's held in common ownership, he has a right under a certain statute. I don't have the site. It's a Mass General Law statute that says lots held in, or parcels held in common ownership can be merged for tax purposes.
But without the owner's consent?
Yes. That's actually caused some issue with, I don't want to say cause issue, but there have been a couple recent challenges with lots that have been, parcels that have been combined, merged, but it's, you know, it's legal and it's been upheld in court that the assessor has the right to do that.
Okay, Eric Henry.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to add that I do believe that the variance is a viable option, because I've seen it happen right across the street from me. A lot back when the ordinances were 6,000 square feet came in, and under variance was built on less than 3,600 square feet of property. So if the moon and stars lined up, it could definitely be an option, a viable option.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Michelle? Well, okay, quickly, if you do it quickly.
Regarding the pre-ledge survey, there's probably about 70 homes within 300 feet. Does he violate the condition if one of the homeowners or many of the homeowners say, I don't want you in my house, I don't want you to look at anything, get out of here? Is the condition wording to a point where this doesn't hurt the applicant because somebody can simply refuse to let him in to do the pre-ledge survey.
I will let Michelle answer, but I would, go ahead, Michelle, why don't you answer? While she looks it up, my opinion is if they refuse you, then you gave them the option and they
Right,
refused it, and
it's,
that's it.
right, you have to offer it, and that's why I said we recommend you do certified mail, and there should be a box yes and a box no, and if they don't want it, you need to have that record showing that you offered it. So let me just read this, again. Pre-ledge removal survey, this is from the ordinance of all buildings within 300 feet of the property lines of the subject property. So that's why then we add on that, that's what the ordinance says, just the basic part of it. We've added video, photographic survey, provide survey to property owner, because that's typically what we've been doing. Before ledge removal, provide city with list of all properties surveyed and contacted. So we could add that language in, conduct, so, you know, for those properties that agree to survey. Yeah, we can't make you survey it if they refuse it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm
Right,
worried
and you,
about the
right,
language,
so
because
that's what's understood, but in fairness, that's not what it says, but that's what we hold the petitioners to. That you offered the survey and they said yes or no. So we could add that language for those properties that agree to survey.
Okay.
And then, like it says, that you're gonna give us a list of all properties surveyed and contacted. Surveyed and all surveyed and contacted. And then I'll put with evidence of agreement or refusal. I'll just add that in. That's what it means, but I'll put that in. Fair enough.
Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michelle, as to that, I think condition number 4 would need to be amended to, I would suggest, offer and conduct pre-ledge removal video and photographic survey of all buildings within 300 feet of the property lines of the subject property who consent, and provide survey to property, and provide said surveys to property owner.
Okay, so that's better, you think? So it would say offer and conduct all buildings within 2 feet of the property line
Who consent.
who consent. And then the rest of it as written, and then in parentheses at the end, it'll say so provide city with list of all properties surveyed and contacted with evidence of agreement or refusal, or with evidence of consent, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, because I don't think you can force them to
Right.
refuse either. If they don't get a response, then you shouldn't be held to that.
True, and maybe actually why that is, why it says surveyed and contacted, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think we did have cases where they sent the letter like 3 times certified mail, nobody responded, so. So we want proof that they surveyed them and they offered the survey, is what it comes down to. So maybe it is written the right way, with list of all properties surveyed and contacted. I won't put the rest of it, okay. So I added that, offer and conduct, pre-ledge survey of all buildings within 3 feet of the property line of subject property who consent. Okay. And then it will end as written, okay? Thank you.
Okay, you all set, Pat?
Yes, thank you.
The only 2 comments I have regarding the separating the lot, I think Michelle's told us that it's not in our purview to do that. However, I think we should make the recommendation to we don't have to make it as part of this condition, but I think we should make a recommendation that the assessor evaluate it and consider it, given the history of the decades of use as a parking. We can't force the current owner to do it. for what we're doing, but I think we can at least bring it to the attention of the assessor. But I don't think it can be part of our recommendation. And the other part that I'm just struggling with, I think it's very valid and I think it should be done, but I don't know how we actually affect damage that's already been done. I don't know how you prove it. I don't know. I mean, in the case of the Fosdicks, I mean, it's a brand-new home, and they're seeing uncharacteristic damage that you could probably attribute to that, but there's a lot of, I don't know how you prove it. And as much as I'd love to see them get their stuff fixed, I don't know how we can do that. I don't know if the building commissioner has any thoughts on what can happen. I don't know that there is a mechanism for us to enforce that. And they seem to be the easy one. You know, then when you start getting into some of the older homes that might claim it, you know, and I just don't know how we prove that and what we do with that. So I don't know how to address that, or even if that's part of of what we can address. So those are just comments. Okay, I don't know what I said, but that prompted a lot of a flurry of activity. Mr. Henry Susi.
Thank you, Chair. No, I just wanted to sort of echo your sentiments. I've been thinking that, you know, it's unfortunate for any damage that has taken place to date, but as far as, you know, we sitting here, this is an allegation. We have no proof of cause and effect, and it certainly would be outside of our jurisdiction to make that judgment. There must be a legal avenue for them to pursue, and I don't see that adding a condition here would be inappropriate.
Thank you, Henry. Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, I agree there. I think what you know, unfortunately for Mr. Fosdick and his family, if they'd had, you know, suffered any damages there, it should be addressed with the contractor or the owner's current insurance policy. No insurance company is going to retroactively insure for damage that occurred before a policy happened, and likewise with a bond. So I don't think there's anything we can put in here to do that. And I think unfortunately it would fall on Mr. Fosdick to you know, pursue other legal or insurance avenues to you know, address any issues with that.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Eric McCush.
Yeah, I was just going to add that unless the contractor is willing to play nice and acknowledge that maybe he did do these damages, him, by doing the work without the permit, without the seismographs and everything, opens himself up to the litigation, and it becomes up to the homeowner to perhaps find a local lawyer and pursue legal action.
I mean, certainly having the petitioner step up and take on that responsibility would be the ideal and elegant solution, but I don't think it's one that we can force upon him, and I don't think it's right that we hold up the rest of the petition based on something we can't enforce.
Agreed.
But that's just my thoughts, and I'm certainly not an insurance expert, nor my attorney, so. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, if there's no more comments, what I would like to do is just remind folks of who's eligible to vote on this, where it has been tabled 2 other times. The people that are eligible to vote, and we have 9, is Tawadage, Patrick, Diane, Kenny, myself, Charlie Ferguson, Henry Susi, and Eric Henry. 3. Can Pat?
Both Patricks.
Both Patricks can vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just let me just double check and find the,
Well,
The
I
sheet,
I
the
went
vote
through it
sheet.
from the sheet, and the two that can't vote are Eric McCush, because he missed the second hearing, and because we have 9, Jim Chiavelli, even though he was present at both those hearings. With the other people, I think we have 9.
yes. Yes, that's correct. Okay, right.
There was a
He was gonna
question of-
vote if Ken wasn't
Right,
here,
there was a
right, okay.
question that whether we were gonna have a few
A
of the
full 9,
members that
okay.
were already
Right.
here. And if that were the case, then Jim Chiavelli would be
Right.
eligible to vote because he was in attendance at each of
Right.
those meetings as well as
And
this
Eric
one.
McCush wasn't here in August to hear the testimony.
Right.
He was here at the first one, but we didn't take testimony,
Right.
so we can't
So he's
move forward
ineligible.
with that. That's right,
Right.
okay.
So for everyone except for Eric McCush and Jim Chiavelli, question becomes, is there a motion? We've heard Michelle's recommendations. We've heard the information that we asked for from the prior hearing. And the question is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just have one point of clarification. I just wanted to ask Michelle. Back to condition 1, before I think of a motion. You know, it refers back to all development shall be as per plans. Did we specify which plans those were, whether those are the Lala plans or the Esposito plans?
Building commissioner said it's those ones dated today.
Right, which is the Lala plan, which only shows 2 parking
That's the
spots.
floor plan, right. Right, good point, right. So,
And the Esposito plan is really a topo and a erosion control plan.
okay, so all development shall be as per site plan dated, dated July 20th, as per,
Which one's the July 20th, Michelle?
well, we want to say October 23rd, so.
Yeah, October 23rd.
Why don't we
right.
just say that as per
October
site
23rd.
plan, so that's the topo plan and construction details dated October 23rd, 2018. Unless and except as modified by these conditions. So then, I think when you get to condition 13, where we specified submit current as-built floor plan, then it will have to be as per that plan. I don't really want to reference that plan because that's not the correct plan. The floor plan
Yeah.
dated October 3rd, 2017, that's been stamped. I think we should, you know, it should be as per, yeah, so it should say all development shall be as per site plan, topo plan, construction details dated October 23rd, 2018, and current as-built site floor plan to be submitted, I guess it should say.
But the building permit was issued on the Lala record drawing plan.
Right. And I don't know if he's going to take that as the base and update it, then we'll have a current floor plan, or if he's gonna have his new engineer prepare a new floor plan, you know, that's accurate, the as-built floor plan.
Excuse me, Michelle.
Chuck?
May I answer the question, please?
Are you finished with your question, Ken? Or not?
Yes, yeah, I'm done.
Yes.
I just want to make an observation. And it could be, I don't know why, but I have sent the as-built plan to Mr. Joe Callanan, the building inspector. So the as-built plan has been updated and sent to Joe Callahan.
Okay, I'm not sure why we don't have it then. But this is
That's
what
the
Joe
question I don't-
Callahan provided.
That's the pre-construction,
This
for
is
their
one
construction
dated
application.
October 3rd, 2017. And this is what was stamped, approved by the building department and dated today. So
I
I'm
can-
not sure why this isn't what you're calling your updated as-built plan.
The as-built plan was one of those requirements to receive the certificate of occupancy and close the permit.
Well, I mean, all I could say is if it's here or you already have it, you'll just have to refile it then that'll be easy to comply with that
Refile, there will be
condition.
no problem, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
So we'll say, one, all development shall be as per site plan, topo plan, and construction details dated October 23rd, 2018. And I'll say prepared by Anthony Esposito, and as-built floor plan, current as-built floor plan. Right? Is that what you're getting at? Yes. Okay. And then it'll say, unless and except is modified by these conditions, so.
Okay, Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michelle, you could also, to make it cleaner, amend condition number 16, which is submit as-built site plans showing, you could add floor plan, parking areas, stairs, walkways, and retaining walls, unless you intended to specifically address the exterior only.
Yeah, I was really only gonna address the exterior with that, which is why I added the submit as-built to 13, but whatever you wanna do,
That's fine.
whatever you think.
So what is your pleasure?
And make sure, please, if you're talking about this, 5, had some suggested modifications. I don't, it had some options in there, so if who's ever making a motion, if you're moving forward with this, please specify. I don't think you agreed on that, did you? Which properties, if you're gonna put a seismograph?
No, we haven't really talked
Right,
about
okay,
it.
so I just.
So I'm
yeah.
presuming that what you provided is the bare minimum, and then if anyone else from the audience spoke and said they wanted one too,
You should
then
put
we
that
would
in your,
consider it,
right,
but
you
we
would,
didn't have that tonight.
you didn't discuss that, right?
We didn't have anyone
Oh,
beyond these.
17 did, 17
And
did.
17's on it.
No, 17 was for your consideration. See how I put in my
56
notes?
Fairview, 13 Division, oh, okay, and then consider the others.
Yeah. Those 3, 2 are across the street and 1 is abutting 13. So I'm just raising that before anybody makes a motion. And also, the 2 ideas about a duration of the ledge removal or a start date, we didn't talk about yet. If you want to include those. If you're even moving in that direction to grant
Okay,
this
well,
with
with regard
conditions.
to start date and duration, I wouldn't want to see them doing it before New Year's. But then that gets tricky, even though he said he's not bound by the construction season. There's every indication that this is gonna be an awful winter. So I think he's gonna run into snow and weather that he's not gonna be able to do it as quickly as he's expressed he'd like to tonight.
So we could say project start date may not be before January 1st, 2020, 2019.
Yeah.
The petitioner did say he'd be willing to defer the start until March 1st.
Right, and Chuck just said January, so that's why I'm just saying somebody should make sure you put something in there. I just had them as placeholders, a start date, and if you want to try to specify a duration, but I don't really know.
And my concern was the holidays, not waiting till March 1st.
Right.
I mean, in my opinion, this is his risk and his burden that he's gonna have to manage, as far as doing that. So as long as it doesn't happen before New Year's Day, but I want it done as quickly as possible afterwards. You know, I think the duration, that once it starts, it should be done within 2 weeks. So whatever the effective start date is, that it should be no more than 14 days. This neighborhood's gone through enough already.
So if,
Patrick Fitzgerald.
Back to Michelle's initial question. I'm fine with the as-built plan as included in 13, so it's specific to the bedroom. As to the issue of the time frame, I do agree that it shouldn't start before January 1st, and if you put a 2-week maximum in there, like the petitioner even said, if he's got to have snow removal, if the conditions aren't conducive to completing it within 2 weeks, then he's going to be in violation of the permit if he starts it earlier than March 1st. So that's going to be up to him. So I think that would be sufficient to say not before January 1st and complete it within 2 weeks. But I agree, it should be done as soon as possible for the benefit of the neighbors.
so 2 weeks, 2 calendar weeks, or so 10 days or 14 business days?
14 calendar days, not 10 business days.
Well, 14, he
business
can't work
days are
on
Monday through
Saturdays,
Friday.
right, he can't work on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 10 calendar 10 weekdays, essentially.
10 work days, 14 calendar days, is what I was thinking. Now, am I gonna fight someone if they say it's 14 business days? No, I'm not gonna do that.
No, I
But
just,
my
you know,
point is,
I don't know what if
don't
it
let
takes-
this thing take out what Seacrest took. Don't let this thing
Seaview,
take
yeah,
what,
yeah.
Seaview,
Fellsview,
sorry, what
yeah.
Fellsway and the rest of them, where those went on for months, months and months, that it was in limbo because the people didn't accurately forecast and understand what they were undertaking. So, you know, if someone wants to push it up to 3 weeks, I'm not gonna fight that, but I don't want to see this thing going out months and months. But I can't make the motion, so I'm just throwing thoughts out there, and whoever makes it, they can consider it or not.
And so this is just, you're looking at just the ledge removal, so some of the grading and stuff might be outside that time frame, or you think the whole project? Just ledge removal.
Yeah, well, just, if he's doing it in January, it's gonna be ledge removal. He's
Okay.
not gonna do landscaping in
Okay.
January, I wouldn't think.
Okay, I'm just making sure. So ledge removal, but the grading is different, you think?
I don't know we haven't seen a landscaping plan. I don't know
Well,
what
I mean, his
I don't know
grading
what the
uses
grading is.
equipment and that stuff too, so I just wanna make sure we understand what we're
Right,
saying
but
has
they're
to
not
be
gonna
done
chip
within
with landscaping equipment.
No. Okay, okay. Ledge
So-
removal shall be, so start date may not be before January 1st, 2019, and all ledge removal shall be completed within, what's the phrase you want to say? Right, so within, I would say, specify number and type of days. 10 business days, I think you should say business days. I don't know what the right number is. And I don't, you know, I want to say, what's the recourse if he's in violation of that? If he goes, he's gonna,
Building commission shuts them down.
and he would have to come back to the board. Okay, just so we're clear on what that would be, okay,
They cite them and shut them down. I mean, that's the current course of action, right, Nelson?
So there'll be a
So that's
stop
what it
work
is.
order issued, and he will have to come back to the board
And he's
to
fine.
amend that condition, okay. I think he's warned, I think there's a warning, I don't know if the fine goes out with the stop work order, but he'll be stopped.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to specify within the number of business days, so that will be condition 19. Start date for ledge removal may not be before January 1st, 2019, and shall be completed within so many business days.
Anything else, Michelle, that you're
No,
seeing?
nothing, you're not gonna do anything with the insurance, because you seem to agree, which I'm not saying I disagree. There's no way really to retroactively cover things, not posting a bond, or, I don't know if, maybe the insurance he had under the original contract is a claim you can make against it? Ken, are you nodding, or? Oh.
I don't know what the,
Oh.
I'm not
So
an
I don't know,
insurance
I'm not
expert,
an
I don't know
insurance
what the.
person. I mean,
Ken,
it
do you-
was
Do you
this
understand
year.
what that is? You're welcome to explain
It
it.
was this year, so is there
Well,
a
I think that's
window?
what I had brought up before, that unfortunately, I think, any damages that have already occurred would have to be, Mr. Fosdick would have to either hire counsel or whatever to go after the petitioner or the contractor, and they should have had insurance at that time. We can't
Okay.
put anything in
Okay.
to our conditions here.
Anything else, Michelle?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay. What is your pleasure?
Well, except 18. Did you want the building commissioner to attend this construction meeting with the engineering department prior to start of work? Or building official, do you want me to go, or what do you want to do? That was 18. Provide construction schedule, and owner, site engineer, geotech engineer shall attend a site meeting with engineering department prior to start of work? Or you just want to leave it at engineering?
Just leave it at engineering. What are you or Nelson gonna bring to the table
Well, all these conditions.
other than knowing what's here?
All these conditions, so I think we did that on the
Okay, then-
Gilbert Street one, I think.
Then you attend also.
Okay. Just to make sure the contractor,
Right.
and
So
actually you should
so
say,
just
yeah.
put yourself down.
Owner, site engineer, geotech engineer, and contractor, in case that's a different person, and then I'll go too. Just to make sure who's ever gonna be doing the work actually has this,
Right. Was there anything else? You wanna read them over so you? 'Cause
No,
we
I'm
still
sorry,
haven't
that-
identified number 5, other than the specific ones.
5 is 44 Fairview, 56.
Tell us what the compelling reason is for 53, for 11, and for 17.
53 is in a butter, they're across the street, directly across the street, that's the closest house across the street, and so is in 11. So I just gave out suggestions for abutting. When you say abutters, those would be abutters, they're not direct abutters, they're across the street. 17, because he had asked previously, and he mentioned it again tonight, that particular abutter. In 17.
And he's here tonight.
Right, and he
Mr.
said.
DeMarco, would you like a seismograph in front of your house?
If the board wants, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference.
Do you want one? Do you want one? If you don't want one, we're not
Okay.
looking to force one upon you.
If the board feels it's important, if not,
Great.
then no.
Thank you very much. So he doesn't have a compelling desire to have a seismograph in front of his house.
Okay, so 13, even though it's owned by the same petitioner, is the closest structure to the north.
Yeah.
So that's fine, that's why I put
And
13.
that's what the
right. Those are
geotech
direct-
guy said, it was
right,
gonna be northwest and east.
Right, those are the 3 direct abutters, so, okay. Those would be the 3 then.
Okay, anything else? Does anyone have any other questions for Michelle? Okay, what's your pleasure? Is there a motion? Pat Fitzgerald.
A motion to grant the special permit, subject to the 19 conditions as amended by staff, specifically to include 44 Fairview Avenue, 56 Fairview Avenue, and 13 Division Street only for condition number 5. And as it relates to condition 19, that the ledge removal not commence before January 1st, 2019, and last no more than 15 business days.
Okay.
Consecutive business days.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Just to be clear.
Yes,
I don't
thank
want
you.
there to be a question about that. Every loophole is looked for, believe me. Okay.
Okay, is there a second? Eric Henry.
Yes, Chair, I can second that motion.
Eric Henry seconds Patrick Fitzgerald's motion for recommendation of staff with 19 conditions as amended. Okay, and you know who's voting, right?
Mhm.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ken Antonucci,
No.
Diane Chuha,
Yes.
Charles Ferguson,
No.
Patrick Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Tawadej Geber Selassie,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
No.
Chuck Ioven.
No.
So that did not carry. You need 6 affirmative votes to grant a special permit, so that permit was, that motion did not carry. So the special permit was not granted with 19 conditions as amended. Is there anything else that you wanted to do? No? Okay.
What, is that, someone else want to make a motion?
Is there any other, I mean,
Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion. I'm not sure how to word this properly. I'd like to make a motion to grant the special permit, however, with no additional ledge removal, limiting the number of new spaces to 2 new parking spaces, which would essentially include all of the conditions, but you would strike 2, 5, and 9.
I'm going to write that down. Grant special permit with no additional ledge removal.
Limiting the number of parking spaces to 2. And striking conditions 2, 5, and 9.
2, 5. Okay, so 2 is the means, 5 is the seismographs, I'm just reading this out loud, and then 9. Okay, did you say 2, 5, and 9?
Yes.
And
And
what
keeping all
about
the other conditions that you mentioned.
4 is the pre-ledge removal surveys.
Yeah, 4 as well. Sorry.
11, so, do you,
And then 19 would go as well.
okay, 19. What about 11?
11 would go
Can you
too.
read through the
Yeah.
19 conditions and
Yeah.
just include the ones you want?
Yeah,
Include
Just, you don't have to
Yep.
read them out loud, just scan through the list. Because, I mean, we're up to almost half of them you're excluding. So
Right,
it's not
anything
the
to do with
one
ledge
or two.
removal gets
Right, can you go through
removed.
and provide which ones you would like to exclude, please?
Exclude 2,
Okay.
exclude 4,
Mm-hmm.
exclude 5,
Mm-hmm.
technically, you probably would not need 7, but I wouldn't want to exclude that in case there was some other reason to have a fire watch. Exclude 9, exclude 11, and exclude 19.
Okay. I would just offer the other one is the liability insurance. If there's no, that's usually an insurance for ledge removal. It's $1 million, $3 million. But if you want to keep it, you know,
I would keep the insurance.
okay. And the only other thing is in terms of the plans, we had amended condition to say all development as per the site plan, the topo plan, you don't want that plan.
Well, no,
you
you could
do
still
want
leave
it.
the same plans,
Okay.
but it's as amended by the
Okay.
following conditions. And one of the conditions
Okay.
I had was limiting it to 2 spots and not 4.
Okay, I see what you're doing, okay. So you're adding in a new condition that says no additional ledge removal. Oh, no, you're saying grant special permit, no additional ledge removal. You're adding a condition that says limit parking spaces to 2.
Limit new parking spaces to 2. Unless we could maximize and get 3, I don't know if,
You mean like this? I don't know.
I guess we could say something like maximize the parking, number of parking spaces without additional ledge removal.
Just,
But I
could
think
just
2
say
would be enough.
provide maximum amount of parking spaces. If it's 2, then it's 2. I don't know if
Yes.
you can get 3. But you're saying no additional ledge removal.
Right. To keep it with us, it is. That's what Michelle said. I know.
You're asking.
You've
That-
conveyed what you
that's-
want the
yes, that
motion to
is
be?
my motion.
You have it, Michelle?
And if
Okay, Patrick Hayes.
I just had a question. If there's no ledge removal, what's the special permit for?
I think the special permit is, as I said initially, it's legalizing what's already been done.
They already took 40% of the ledge out.
Okay.
I think, again,
And
my
they're
only.
gonna have to do something to finish it off.
Otherwise, and just as a
Additional
comment.
ledge removal to finish it
Well,
off.
curb cuts, redoing all the sidewalks and any damage to the street that they do. And
Retaining
then
walls.
finishing
So
and
we're-
making
so-
sure that the grade and everything else is.
So a whole new plan's required?
No, I don't think so. And what my fear was, and the reason I'm going down this road with this, unless I'm just been, misunderstanding here, is if we just deny this, he could just do nothing. There's no requirement to finish anything.
This is my understanding.
You could just leave it the way it
Right,
is.
Right, he could, or he could, my idea was that while he's before you, attempt to exercise your jurisdiction. This case was sent to you because he was in violation of the ordinance. He violated the ordinance, and they said, you need a special permit to remove ledge. So that's how it was sent to you. So that's why I kind of likened it, and maybe I'm not correct. I likened it to the person that builds the deck without the permits and he's in violation. They send him to the board. He's sent to the board. Well, he has 2 options. He can take the whole deck down, or he can go to try to legalize what's been done. So essentially, that's what you would be doing. But you're also, while you're doing that, Now, you don't have to do that. I asked if there was another motion. You don't have to make another motion. It can stand as it was, 5-4, the special permit was denied.
That's, I made the motion.
Right.
No one
It's
has
still
to
going to
second it.
need 6 to grant the
Right.
special permit, right, so,
Yep.
that's my understanding of it. Now, you might ask, what if he decides not to exercise his rights under the special permit? I guess that's his right as well. He already has an occupancy permit. He could not exercise his rights under the special permit and just leave the project undone or complete the project without,
Ledge removal. Additional ledge removal.
right. So, I'm not sure if I'm explaining that.
No, I understand it, and
Okay, so
my
Ken made a
motion,
motion with specific conditions. Is there a second? Charlie Ferguson.
I second the motion.
Charlie Ferguson seconds Ken's motion with conditions. Okay. F, G.
Ken Antonucci?
yes.
Diane Chuha?
No.
Charles Ferguson?
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald?
No.
Tawadich Geber Selassie?
No.
Patrick Hayes? No. Eric Henry?
No.
Henry Susi?
No.
Chuck Iovan?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion failed.
Okay, give it one last chance. Is there another motion someone wants to make? We've tried the petition. We've tried finishing up with a project that's there. Does someone have another suggestion that they want to see if they can get the votes for? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, the motion, we could not come up with a motion that passed for your proposal. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight. I know we've been out several times. I'd particularly like to thank the building commissioner for coming up and answering some of the questions that were confusing the board, or at least myself. Appreciate you providing that insight, and thank you for your time. Okay, next order of business is Master Plan Steering Committee. Master Plan Steering Committee update. We met recently. We're coming up with a different tact, and that we're going to be proposing. Unfortunately, we were supposed to meet on November 19th, but I will be out of town on business the 19th. So Michelle's canceled that meeting, and we're looking for a new date, whether it's, I believe, the 3rd or 17th were the two other days. We were going to ask people what their availability was.
Right, and I haven't done that yet. I'm going to send that email out first thing,
Okay.
but it's canceled Monday.
Ken, can you give us an update on community preservation? Yes, you do.
Community preservation, we continue to meet twice a month. We have our next meeting on the 27th. We are continuing to review applications. I believe we have 2 or 3 remaining. Once that is done, we are hoping to put our recommendations together and present them to the mayor and city council after the first of the year.
Thank you very much, Ken. Can I see the vote sheets, please? And housing production plan, Michelle.
Yes, housing production plan. housing production plan, we had another meeting earlier this month. The advisory committee convened. Unfortunately, we just made a quorum, so the full committee wasn't there. We did move forward reviewing some of the materials, preparing to, I believe the next step will be a community forum. I will let you know when that is, in case you all want to go to that. And so that's the status. The project's still moving forward. MAPC is the consultant. We're working on that part of the project, and they're working on the land area analysis for the 40B calculation. I don't have the date of the forum yet, but there is, what I was going to tell you was there's a very, well, I think it's a fairly developed website. If you go onto the city website under commissions and boards, and there's a link that says advisory committees. If you click on Housing Advisory Committee, it takes you to an MAPC link. They have a whole page for Malden's plan and what's going on. So I'll email you all that link as well. But it's, you know, we're just still working on, I'd say, I would call it data collection. And then I think there's going to be 2 different community forums, but I wasn't told yet, at least at the meeting last week, we weren't told of the dates yet. I don't think they've been proposed, so that project is moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Next meeting is scheduled for December 12th. Any thoughts on what we have in the pipeline, Michelle?
Yes, we have potentially several cases. I know there have been several filed. I'm not sure if they're complete. So we could potentially have a full agenda.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Michelle? No? Anything else? If not, happy
Thanksgiving.
have a happy Thanksgiving and start to the holidays. Enjoy it. I was in Montreal yesterday, and there was 2.5 inches of snow we woke up to. So hopefully that's not on its way here. Okay.
Thank
All
you
those in
all.
favor, say aye. Aye.
All right,
Motion carries. Great, thanks.